All right. Welcome, one and all, to the latest and greatest episode of the Xbox 2 podcast.
Woo!
Episode number 375 on this beautiful August 8th, the continuation of my birthday month. We're almost there. It's later on this month. In fact, pretty much at the end of the month. But I'm here. I'm the man with the million, Randall Thor 19. And joining me as usual, we have Mr. Windows Central himself, Mr. Corden, Mr. Jez, Mr. Surfshark extraordinaire. He's here.
Rawr.
And he's ready to tell you and ready to pontificate about the glories of Battlefield 6.
Oh man, I am in Battlefield heaven right now, baby.
He's loving it.
Yes,
Loving it
buddy.
so much.
How you been? You been good?
Yeah, been good. Been, playing Ready or Not every night with the boys. It's always a good time when you get to hang out with the crew and enjoy some video gaming. It's almost like it's not exactly like the PUBG days, but you take what you can get. You know what I mean? You take what you can
There's
get.
some good news about Ready or Not recently. It's one of the rare games that lost and then regained Xbox Play Anywhere. And if you saw that,
I did see that.
not many games do that.
Xbox Play Anywhere, so good for that.
Yeah.
What about
cool,
you?
Man. Yeah, I still haven't played Ready or Not. It's on the eternal backlog. Maybe something I'll play now I'm in England and I can
You don't have to
coordinate.
play. You won't even be even good at it anyways.
No, I'd be sick at it, bro. All my Battlefield tactics coming in, doing that SWAT team stuff. I actually used to be in a SWAT team,
Used to be in a SWAT team?
Yeah, I'm man of the law, bro. Nah,
Hmm.
I'm just completely lying right now. But yeah, I'll get around to it. Like back in the UK, it's easy to coordinate with friends, so maybe I'll find some time to rock out with some awesomeness in Ready or Not. But yeah, I've mostly just been playing Battlefield, man. It is so good. I'm so glad I was wrong, dude. I had no faith in EA whatsoever. You guys know. I was like, there's no way this is going to be good. This is EA we're talking about. EA can't do good games anymore. They just mess things up all the time. So how awesome is it that I was completely wrong in every way, shape, or form?
You're usually completely wrong most of the time anyway. So this isn't anything new for anybody who's listening to the show.
Oh, man. Yeah, man.
You're mostly wrong. Because here's the thing.
Did you expect it to be good? Did you expect Battlefield 6
you want to know why?
Did anyone?
You want to know why I expected it to be good?
Why?
Vince Zampella.
Yeah, I suppose. But I think you can forgive me for having low expectations of Battlefield 6. And I think the Xbox 2 universe potentially can forgive me for having low expectations of Battlefield 6. Because this is EA we're talking about. And EA has just been very spectacular at disappointment over the last few years. No less with Battlefield itself. Battlefield 5 wasn't amazing. Battlefield 2042 was also not amazing. So I think it was fair to extrapolate that EA wouldn't deliver on this one either, even though Vince was involved. But it does seem, Rand, like Vince is EA's silver bullet. Put that guy on all of his games. Make him work 18 hours a day, maybe 20 hours a day. Load him up with some coffee and just get him working on all of the games, and EA will be back on track, man. Vince has got the magic touch, apparently. But yeah, I'm really happy it's good in any case. We'll talk about it a bit more in a bit, but
yes. Everybody seems to be loving it. There was like 40,000 people waiting to play it before it even launched. So
yeah, sure was.
I think people really want there to be a serious Call of Duty competitor, or one at least that would scare the Activision execs to the point where they change some of their strategies surrounding Call of Duty, namely maybe around like the skins and some of the gameplay elements, I guess. But I did see like an Insider Gaming article that was like Activision Insider says they ain't worried because COD's too big to fail or whatever whatever the quote was. So
Yeah, I have to admit, I thought that article was a bit weird. I mean, just one exec's opinion, kind of thing, doesn't really inform their entire strategy.
sure. But you know
But
what always happens when they say things are too big to fail?
yeah,
Somehow,
before hubris before the fall, right? That's the saying,
pride
right?
before the fall, yeah.
Yeah, so it does feel a little bit like Call of Duty's completely gone off the rails. Like they've had cartoony skins for a while, but it really feels like with Battlefield 6 it's gone to a completely new level. It's been so absurd. But the thing is, they wouldn't keep doing it if people didn't keep buying it. So clearly people are buying it. Clearly people are fine with it. I just wonder if it's not gradually creating a chilling effect, a negative leaving themselves open to be bitten by a negative backlash. But the thing is, this has happened in the past. I remember the Infinite Warfare trailer had like the YouTube world record for most dislikes. And it still ended up being, one of the best-selling games of the year, if not the best-selling game. I think it went on to sell 12 million copies, which is not amazing for not amazing for a Call of Duty game, but it's still a lot of companies have been like, I wish we'd sell 12 million copies. But I think Battlefield's come along at exactly the right time to take advantage of all the backlash to Call of Duty from every direction.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so nice. It's just so nice to return to a classic franchise that I've just sort of missed for a really long time, I guess.
Yeah.
It feels nostalgic.
It also feels like it's a beneficiary of Grand Theft Auto getting delayed to next year. Because if Grand Theft Auto was coming out this fall, then Battlefield would have been the one delayed to next year.
Yeah, probably.
So,
but yeah, I suppose it's lined up well for EA. I mean, you've got some backlash against Call of Duty. You've got GTA being delayed. Also, it helps that the games actually seems like it's going to be really good. I think I played a lot of the Battlefield betas because they always do these really big beta events. And usually these beta events are notorious for instability, lag, and all that kind of stuff. And I haven't played it on PC, of course, so I don't know what the situation is on PC. So forgive me if there's bigger issues there. But I've been playing on Xbox for 2 days, and I haven't had a single issue. This is the most polished Xbox Battlefield beta I've ever been in. I haven't had a single bug. I haven't crashed. There's been no lag. The performance is amazing. It looks great. I'm so high on this game right now.
yeah.
So, yeah, I'm really happy with it. Feels tight. Destruction's on point. The map designs are great. There's no Beavis and Butthead. What more do you want out of Battlefield, man? What more do you want?
I mean, that is true.
Isn't it?
But we got a lot of things to discuss this episode. So if you guys do us a big favor, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, all that good stuff. Because we'll be talking about Contraband. We'll be talking about PlayStation Multiplatform. People are freaking out, or people are angry, or people are saying people are reading into it too much. There's a lot of chatter, shall we say, about what PlayStation might or might not be doing, based on, Helldivers 2 coming to Xbox, based on what people have said, based on Sony's own quotes from their own financial results, talking about going beyond console, essentially. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about supposed, rumored, next-gen Xbox, codename Magnus, or at least like the APU's codename Magnus from AMD. Sounds like I don't know, super powerful or powerful enough. I don't know. I've seen things where like, it's like comparable to a 5080 or whatever. It's like I'm getting flashbacks to 2019-ish when all these sort of things kind of started coming out about the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. You know, what chips it was using, what's a comparison to, what's it gonna do, blah 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 blah, etc etc etc. You know what I mean? Like that run up to new hardware where it's like like everybody expects the sky from stuff, and then
Yep.
reality sort of hits. So we'll talk about all that good stuff.
We sure will.
But we do have a sponsor for this episode. It's obviously something that Jez uses all the time, something that I might consider using, considering how everything is in the world right now and all that stuff. But that's the good old Surfshark VPN, right, Jez?
That's a shark noise for those who aren't aware. So yes, Xbox 2 podcast is sponsored by the fine folks over at Surfshark VPN. That's an ocean.
Is that what the waves sound like?
Yeah. That's a surfing shark, per se. So imagine in your head a surfing shark who's not only surfing and having a great time, but has a very secure internet connection thanks to Surfshark VPN. Looking for a smarter way to protect your digital life? Surfshark VPN is your all-in-one solution for safe, seamless online browsing. Whether you're watching your favorite shows, leveling up on your favorite games, or just catching up on the latest internet trends, Surfshark has your back with blazing fast speeds and support for unlimited devices. Ready to experience internet freedom like never before? Surfshark helps you cut through online barriers with ease. No more geo-blocks, no more restrictions, no more government snooping. Access the global internet, all of its content, unlock new possibilities, and enjoy a cleaner, faster browsing experience thanks to Surfshark's clean web tech, which fends off ads, trackers, and malware all before they reach you. Your privacy is top priority with a strict no-logs policy verified by independent sources. Your online activity stays yours and yours alone. And with Surfshark's powerful encryption, your personal data is wrapped in layers upon layers of security, giving you total peace of mind while you surf. Here's the deal you won't want to miss. Xbox 2 podcast listeners get a whopping 86% off a 2-year Surfshark plan, which works out to around $2 a month or £1.80 or something like that. Reclaim your online freedom. Click the link in the description to get started. Yeah, I almost got through it then. Browse boldly, browse safely, browse with Surfshark. So yeah, Surfshark VPN, really, really good. You if you've got it active on your web browser, you can even install it on your router if you've got certain routers. You can install it on any device, Android, iOS, unlimited devices, all that kind of stuff. RAM-based servers, so even if they wanted to keep logs, they couldn't. And their no logs policy has been verified by independent outside verifiers and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, Surfshark VPN, great way to get around geo restrictions. I use it to get Netflix UK while I'm in Germany, so I can get full access to WWE, for example. Because even though I've got a UK Netflix account, when I'm in Germany, there's no WWE. So there's a great example of how I'm using it most recently. But yeah, Surfshark VPN is really good. And as governments get more and more interested in what we're doing online, it's a good idea to have something that can circumvent all that stuff. So yeah, Surfshark's been very, very good to us. And if you support Surfshark by hitting the link, it also supports us, and you get a great deal out of it. $2 a month for Surfshark for over 2 years. I think it's 2 years and 2 months. Fantastic deal.
Excellent. We also have the excellent, amazing people of the Patreon over at patreon.com/XB2. We have the Xbox 2 MVPs who, we love very much, and we will give a shout out to right now. We got Resident Force, iMike Zero, Tier, Shrapnel, Inner Machine, Holy Dark Death, Steve Stompy, 09C Mine, James Wiseau, Trickster for Trey, Laser Wolf, Battered Haddock, Army Dude 52C, Foreign Object, RS Donks, Silas, James Moore, Fantasticals, Catriox, Bright Tundra 1, Discarded Caboose, Justin Duel, Sean Kramer, PB Broking, Ace of T and Madison, Governor Grimm, DZ Huffin, Wagerman, Pat Rock, Scarcely Relevant, Adam Bartolo, Briggs Country, and Wolfgang KPZ. Thank you guys so much for supporting me and Jez. The question and answer thread is up for people if they want to drop something that's, they've been thinking about all week. be like, oh, I got the perfect question for Rand Jez. I'm gonna see what they think about this. Drop that. We will definitely answer those at the end of the show. And I think we'll be doing Xbox 2 Ultimate or Xbox 2 plus 1 next week. So
Sure
be
will.
on the lookout for that. But Jez, I don't know. What do you wanna tackle first here? I guess. Well, you know what? Let's tackle breaking news that happened earlier today, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Rod Fergusson
Got a feeling.
has left Blizzard. This is after Rod Fergusson had left the coalition to join Blizzard. I forget how many years ago at this point. But now he's left. He put out a nice little tweet, saying like, "Hey, love my time at Blizzard and Diablo. Everything's in good hands, etc., etc., etc." It's always when someone who's like in charge of studios or in charge of franchises leaves, there's always kind of like, oh, what happened? Why aren't they there forever? What's going to happen to the franchise? And you're someone who, by your own admission, absolutely loves Blizzard, loves Diablo, although I don't think you're necessarily a fan of the seasons of Diablo 4 this time around, but what can you tell us about the good old Rod leaving Microsoft for the second time?
Yeah, so I'd been out all day, so dealing with some stuff, but I only just got back just before the podcast, and I didn't know this had happened. My information about it was when Rand was putting in the in our Discord notes thread on what we're going to talk about on the show that Rod Fergusson had left. But I was like, wait, what? Rod left? But I already spoke to some sources about it, and it sounds like this was something that had been planned and discussed for quite some time, and it sounds like Rod just wanted something new. It sounds like he might have had an opportunity lined up, because in his tweet he says, "I'm proud of what's coming next." So it does sound like Rod had been hunting for another role for a while, and I'm not entirely surprised about this, because honestly, the way the Diablo franchise has been handled doesn't feel. The fans aren't super happy with the direction of Diablo, like any Diablo. Like Diablo Immortal's getting hammered, Diablo 4 fans are pissed off, Diablo 2 fans have been completely forgotten about and neglected. So I do feel kind of a little bit like I don't want to. Obviously, I don't know for sure what's going on behind the scenes, but it felt a bit like the passion wasn't there. Like, it does feel like Diablo 4 especially is going through the motions with its seasons. Like, the fans of Diablo, like, kind of joke about, like, what color is the season going to be this month or this season? Because it's basically the same thing every season, but they change the color of the mechanic. So, like, one month it's like, oh, now it's we're going to be in Helltides the whole time, and the next month it's going to be, oh, now we're in the swamp the whole time, and now the seasonal affix is green instead of orange, stuff like that, right? So I haven't played. I played the previous Diablo season before this. I hadn't played a season before that for a few months, and I haven't touched the new season because it was just like, this is just more of the same. It's just more of the same shit over and over again. I think Diablo 4's business model needs new thinking. And it just, for whatever reason, it wasn't manifesting with the current leadership. So, and I'm not suggesting that Rod didn't do a good job. I mean, Diablo 4, the base level of Diablo 4 is very good. The sort of the core of what it is, the polish, the graphics, the story was cool too, and some of the moments in it, the cinematics are absolutely mind-blowing. And I actually like the minute-to-minute combat gameplay. It's just the live service model has just been so disappointing. It honestly feels like with Diablo, they were like, we're going to make this a live service game, and then they had no real plan for how they were going to deliver that. And they just sort of been making it up as they go along. So I don't know. Maybe this would be a good thing for Diablo. Get some, like, I don't know, new thinking behind the game or whatever. But Rod Fergusson is an awesome dude. I've interviewed him a couple of times. I interviewed him on Gears 4 or Gears 5. I can't remember which Gears. It was Gears 4 or 5. It was the one. I think it must have been Gears 5 because it was the one that had the icy
Yeah, that was
custom
Gears
console,
5.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I interviewed him for Gears 5, I guess. And I was terrified, man. It was like one of my first big interviews, and I was really, really nervous. But Rod was like really kind about it. You know, I was like, Jesus Christ, I sound like an idiot right now. So yeah, Rod was awesome to me, but yeah, it just it's kind of funny though because this is the second time that Rod's left Microsoft
Yes.
after being acquired, kind of.
Well, not being acquired. I mean, I think
Microsoft acquired the Gears IP, and then did Rod join after that?
Well, yeah, because Rod was working at Epic, right under, or was he a Microsoft producer that was working on Gears when they were doing Gears at Epic? But I think he was actually working at Epic on Gears 1, 2, and 3, and then Microsoft acquired the IP, and then he joined to lead, what was at the time, like Microsoft Vancouver or Black Tusk Games or whatever they were, because they had so many names, and then Black Tusk Games became Coalition, and then they started doing Gears 4. So they did Gears 4 and 5, and then Fergusson left after 5 and went to Blizzard to basically be in charge of Diablo. Then they got acquired, and here we are, and he's leaving Blizzard to go somewhere else. You know?
So Sam Tobbit in chat says technically it's the third time.
Oh, the third time.
He worked at Microsoft. Then he joined Epic Games, and then Microsoft bought Gears, and then Rod came back, and then Rod left for Blizzard, and then Microsoft acquired Blizzard.
One would, if you didn't really know anything about it, but like one would look at that and be like, maybe he just has a problem working with at Microsoft. Because he does leave a lot. You know,
I wouldn't be surprised. After the layoffs and the sort of the corporate nature of working in a corporation can be soul destroying. And I've talked about it on the show before, because obviously I work in a corporation, shareholder traded and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of like when you work in a really big company, you don't get a big view of, sometimes you don't get a view of the bigger picture, because the company itself might be like, yeah, we want to do this, this, and this. But you're only really concerned about your division and what you've got to do. But for example, Microsoft's laid off a bunch of people, and it's thought to be because of AI, right? They want to lay off all these people due to AI. Which, if you're a Blizzard employee or you're working on a game or something like that, I can't think of anything more frustrating than being like, well, we could do this if you weren't, spaffing money up the wall doing this instead, which, isn't even a proven thing, right? So working in a big, complicated corporation can be really, really irritating. So it could be just that. He doesn't want to work in a big corporation where something like Epic Games is big, but they're very, very focused on games, right? I mean, obviously, they
weren't even that big during the Gears days, right? They're big now because of Fortnite and Unreal Engine stuff, but they weren't that big back then.
Yeah. But they're 100% all in on games, whereas a Blizzard, Blizzard itself is 100% all in on games, but they've also got to navigate all the bullshit that comes with being part of Microsoft, which means maybe Satya decides he wants to have another whack at the metaverse or something, whatever tech fad is popping off at the current moment, because they're really heavily incentivized to inflate the share price by following tech trends or whatever trends that shareholders want them to buy into, because Satya's paid in stock. So, more than ever, Microsoft is completely governed by its share price. And if you're in the gaming segment, that can be incredibly disheartening, because the share price doesn't go up and down based on what they do with the gaming division, So if those kind of decisions informed Rod's decision to leave, I completely understand that. As someone who works in a corporation and sees other divisions get more, better treatment, or at least my perception of it, But yeah, it is what it is. I've told it was been planned for a while, and clearly he's got another role already planned. So, be interesting to see where he ends up. Rand, if you had to guess, where do you think Rod goes next?
Oh, I have no idea.
Because I mean, for all the annoyance I've got towards Diablo, the game was a huge success. It sold tons of copies. It's still one of the most played games on Xbox. You know, if you look at the most played games list, so it's still a huge game, and like every season it does surge in players, even if the seasons are not particularly great. So I suppose Rod has that going for him, that he does sort of deliver profitable projects at the end of the day. And I suppose, like, if you're trying to work out where he could end up next, I would imagine that it's probably not at a big corporation, if we are assuming that it's just annoyance with the way Microsoft operates. Maybe something more gaming focused. Maybe PlayStation, you know. Who knows, man?
Whoever he goes next, that might be a target for a Microsoft acquisition.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, he seems to end up at companies that end up getting acquired. So that could be pretty funny.
Yeah.
Not for him. If he wants to get out. But
So when's the timetable on the next Diablo anyways? Like, if you were expecting Diablo 5, how long from now would you say we're away from Diablo 5? 5 years? 6 years?
I don't know, man.
Because isn't there usually like a huge time gap in between games?
Wasn't it 10 years between 3 and 4, something like that? It was a big ass gap, put it that way, and there'll probably be an even bigger ass gap between the next two. It's hard to say, man, because part of me just thinks, like, I think they're just going to keep going with this model of expansions, because if I remember correctly, Diablo 3 had 2 expansions, I think. Did it have 2 expansions or 3? I think it had 2, because, or like one smaller expansion, and then they added the expansion that added the Necromancer, which was a much bigger expansion. If I might be misremembering. Maybe it only had 1 expansion, I don't know. But yeah.
Well, wouldn't Diablo 4 is going to have its second expansion next year, right?
Yeah, so the next Diablo expansion, and from what, you know, I've got some Blizzard sources that, you know, tease me sometimes. And one of my Blizzard sources who, you know, doesn't really give me hard information, but, you know, likes to hype things. They told me that the team's very, very confident about the expansion, but you'd think, like, they would be, right? But sometimes you hear the opposite. Sometimes you hear things like, oh, the whole team thinks this is not working and blah, blah, blah. But I've heard good things about the next Diablo expansion. There's a lot going into it, which is why it was delayed, right? There's a big budget attached to it. But I'm sitting here thinking, like, the issue with Diablo is not necessarily that. It's the business model. I'm sitting here thinking, like, it's the fact that you buy the cool armor instead of earn it. Like, a lot of these sort of system level things that are wrong with Diablo, for me, is not necessarily like the overworld is the issue. The issue is like the business model and also the anemic seasons, you know. I don't know if an expansion can necessarily fix that. But I don't know, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'll play it anyway. Because the stories are still good. Like, you play the story and then quit. I mean, it's worth it just for that, you know.
Right. You would, yeah.
So D3 only had the Necro expansion, and then Druid was cancelled. Okay, so yeah, so Diablo 3 didn't have a ton of expansions, but the difference here, Rand, is that Diablo 3 didn't have battle passes, and the seasons were free, you know, and the cosmetics and stuff, you know, you earn them by playing, for the most part, at least. Whereas Diablo 4 is like, oh yeah, all the cool stuff you have to pay for, and all the free stuff is just terrible busy work, you know. I don't know.
So
but we'll see, man. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see where Rod goes next. And I mean, usually wherever Rod goes, quality product, you know, basically comes out of it. So I mean, Gears games were great. I remember when I think when what Sam had talked about in chat about he left to go join. Like I remember when he joined. I forget the name of the studio that was doing Ken Levine's studio they were pushing up BioShock Infinite, and they brought in Rod, the closer as he was called, to like ship the game. And I remember like reading stories about him, like basically coming in there and be like, "No, we're cutting that. Okay, we're doing this. We're cutting this. We're cutting this," because like Ken Levine has that whole thing of like expanding scope and constantly doing stuff that he had to bring. You know,
feature creep.
Yeah, they'd do something to come in and be like, take a look at the game, be like, well, what are we losing? What are we keeping? We need to push this because the game's got to come out, you know? So, I mean, hey, the Gears games are great. BioShock Infinite's great. Diablo, people love it. I mean, it's not necessarily my cup of tea, but, I mean, it was enjoyable for, the time I played it. I enjoyed the campaign, but no interest in ever playing it again. Don't care about the seasons. So we'll see where he goes next, and we wish him well. Now, keeping on the Xbox front here with news that happened this week. Contraband. Good old Contraband. Basically,
Contraband.
Jason Schreier wrote an article, and essentially Contraband has been canceled, or I guess the correct terminology has been put on ice, or has been put on hold. And then like Avalanche updated their website and said that they were reviewing the project and blah 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 blah, that it's on hold for now, which I guess to most people comes as no surprise. I think people sort of expected this after the layoffs and cancellation of games back in June, when Microsoft canceled long in the tooth titles that had been announced since like the early 2020s and haven't really seen much. So they canceled Everwild, they canceled Perfect Dark. We never even got to see the ZeniMax MMO that they canceled. But another game that they
canceled, Miles Dompierre's Perfect Dust.
Yeah.
No, Phantom Dust. Not Perfect Dust.
Yeah.
Imperfect Dust, if anything. Yeah, Phantom Dust was cancelled. There's probably like tons of projects we don't even know about that got cancelled.
Oh, absolutely. But a game that they did reveal in 2021 with a Steely Dan cover, Steely Dan song, and a nice title reveal for Contraband, which was supposed to be like a 8-player, 6-player co-op heist game where you're driving around, heisting stuff, doing like Grand Theft Auto-y things, set in the 70s in Havana, I guess was this thing about it. Well, it's been put on ice, which everybody was like, yeah, makes sense, because we haven't seen the game in forever. And Microsoft definitely seems like they were cutting budget, for the new fiscal year. And it was like, well, if you're going to cancel Perfect Dark and you're going to cancel Everwild, it definitely seems like, Contraband is a candidate, also considering how long they've been working on it and how little we've actually seen of it. Which I guess it's also not a surprise if you listen to this podcast, because I think multiple weeks Jez had talked about how you could not get anybody at Xbox to go on the record or off the record about whether or not the game was still in development.
Yeah, I mean, when all these cancellations and things were happening, like I was exploring what projects were still alive, and one of the projects that I was like told pretty quickly that wasn't cancelled was Kojima's OD. So they reiterated that to Jason Schreier, that OD's not cancelled. And that was the thing that I said on this podcast, OD's isn't cancelled. And I think I reported that on Windows Central as well, that OD wasn't cancelled. But the one that no one would talk about was Contraband. And I guess that's because there was still... Now, this is what I think happened. I think the reason they're saying it's on hold and not cancelled is because they're trying to find a new publisher. I think they're not like just being like, yeah, this is gone, cancelled, whatever. Because at the end of the day, it's not like a first party thing, right? It's not like Tango. It's not like the Initiative. This is like Avalanche's game and Avalanche's code. I mean, Microsoft owns it, but Microsoft's probably like, yeah, we don't want to put more money into this, so you guys need to find a new publisher. So I'm guessing they're saying like it's on hold because they want to find a new publisher. And that's why Microsoft was reluctant to go on the record about the fate of Contraband ultimately. And I would presume that they're probably still trying to find a publisher even now, and which is why they're not saying it's outright fully cancelled. But I have to say, Rand, I would not be surprised if nobody picks this up, personally, because everything we've heard about it so far, like the open world heisting gameplay, and also it sounds like, from what I heard about it or what I saw of it, a few years ago at least, and the scope might have changed, of course, over the years. Games change in scope all the time. But what I saw of it previously was this was going to require dedicated servers, and it was going to be like an online game, a service game in essence. And it was going to have a social hub, like Destiny does, where players could meet up, team up, take quests, buy skins, all that kind of stuff, which requires dedicated servers, right? Or generally speaking. So I'm thinking, like, if I'm a publisher, either that's going to be a lot of expense to fund all those dedicated servers, especially in a post GTA 6 online world, which is probably going to have a lot of the same similar kind of gameplay elements, like heisting with your friends and vehicular chaos and all that kind of thing, right? I'm kind of sitting there thinking, does anyone pick this up? Because Microsoft is the cloud company, and anyone else would have to rent servers from Amazon or Google or whoever else, or Microsoft itself, which is going to push up the cost, right? So I don't know, but maybe it's far along enough that they can figure it out, find a publisher, and that it does find new life. I hope it does, because I want to see the finished product. I don't like games getting cancelled. None of us do. Don't want to see people get laid off. None of us do. I just want to see successful games, and at least the premise sounds interesting,
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I always thought it was. See, what you say about maybe the reason they didn't say anything was because they were trying to keep the project alive and give it to somebody else. I think that makes a lot of sense for me, because just sitting here, and it's like August, so it's basically like almost 2 months since the layoffs. And you figure if like the game was going to be canceled, it would have been canceled then. Like, because what's the use in saying, all right, we're canceling 3 games back on whatever day it was in June, and then wait another 2 months and then just announce a cancellation of another game? Like, why spread out the bad news, quote unquote, over a period of time when you could have just done it in one fell swoop?
And then forgotten about it.
It'd be like, oh, by the way, it's the ZeniMax MMO, it's Everwild, it's Perfect Dark, and it's Contraband. And then you don't...
Well, I was going to say, my assumption is that Jason had evidence and was going to leak it.
Sure, probably.
Jason
well,
tweeted
I don't
out.
even know if it was Jason. I mean, I know Jason wrote about it. I think it might have been Steven Totillo who broke it initially, if I'm on GameFile, his website.
Really? Well,
yeah.
Well, it does seem like it was going to leak imminently anyway. So that's probably why it even came out in the first place. I presume that if it wasn't going to leak, that they were going to try and keep it under wraps while they carried on trying to find a publisher or whatever. I mean, they were hiring a producer as recently as like last week for the game. So it does feel like there is a concerted effort to try and keep this alive, right? Yeah, I don't know.
Also, like, another thing that was in, I forget who had written it, if it was Jason or if it was Steven, but he basically said, like, one of the things that was underreported about the layoffs was how badly Xbox Global Publishing got hit. A lot of managers there, and including like the longtime leader Peter Weiss, basically left, and that there was like a whole bunch of reduction in budget, which I think resulted in some cancellations for some projects and stuff. So
I think we did talk on the show about how. I think I even said to you on the show like how many producers have been laid off,
Yeah.
and like I think Microsoft, to be honest, Microsoft itself said managers were being targeted to make the organization flatter and more agile. That was, I think they said something to that effect. But I mean, it still just kind of sucks, And don't want to see games getting cancelled, but like Matt Booty said, they've got 40 other games in development. I mean, however many of those are actually games that we might want to play, I don't know, because that could include mobile games and shit like that, right? I don't want to play mobile games. I don't think Rand wants to play mobile games. Do you,
No,
Rand?
not interested
Do you
in
want to
playing
play
mobile
mobile
games. Nope.
No,
Not me.
nope,
Not
nope,
me,
me
sir.
neither.
No, thank you.
Nope. I'm definitely not interested in mobile games, and I doubt you guys listening are either. So I don't know how many of those 40 games are actually legitimate games that we want to play, but it does sound like there's just a mountain of projects on the horizon, and even Global Publishing itself's putting out Ninja Gaiden 4
Yes.
in the near term. So
Ninja Gaiden 4, which, you know what? That's a good segue, Jez, because
good segue.
I have played a couple Ninja Gaiden games this week. One being Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, and the other being Ninja Gaiden 4. So I finished Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. I beat the game, and quite enjoyed it. It was, I don't know, it was kind of exactly what I needed. Because I've also been playing Ready or Not a lot. Like every single night, couple hours a night with the boys. We got all the S ranks on standard difficulty on all the levels in the game, like all the 20 base levels plus the 6 DLC levels, and that was a lot of fun. I've talked about that the past couple weeks. Now we are going through the base levels, so the 20 levels within the first game or within the main game, on hard difficulty, and that seems to be like, it's weird because I enjoyed the tactical nature of the S ranking because you had to you had to play it non-lethal, right? So you had to arrest enemies. You had to use a gun that shot like pepper bullets at people, so they would surrender and stuff.
In Ragebound?
No. And this is in Ready or Not. So look,
About
no, I'll get back to Ragebound. But now we're playing Ready or Not on hard, so we can go full lethal. And I think it's a lot more fun that way to approach it lethally, but I feel like S ranks were a bit more satisfying because you had to be more cautious. And even, with you do have to be like cautious on hard because you will die instantly. And the enemies like have this like incredible aim, but there's a difference. You don't have to wait and try to arrest people and have them surrender. You could basically just shoot them in the head. And it's just funny every time they fall down with the physics and stuff. So we've been making our way through the levels again. But Ninja Gaiden Ragebound is, I think I talked a little bit about it last week. I did finish it about like 9 hours played of the game. And I liked it, right? It's definitely a different type of game that I maybe was, I don't want to say if craving was the right word, but just a different experience of a linear kind of hack and slash, kind of reminiscent of the OG.
Retro.
Yeah, like retro OG Ninja Gaiden
way.
thing. Yeah, where it was difficult at times, especially towards the end. Like I didn't find the first 3 stages really difficult. Like the boss fights were just challenging enough where you would see the pattern a few times and you'd be like, okay, I got this. But man, when you got to stage 4, it really kind of cranked up the difficulty and got you get a pretty decent, like, okay. And the checkpoints are sparse, like spaced good enough apart where they do feel like they're generous, but then sometimes they're like, oh man, I wish it was closer. So like you're sort of just like perfecting the segments in between, trying to get to the next checkpoint, and then you have the boss fight. So, I mean, if you're a fan of that retro games, obviously I think this one would really probably
scratch the itch.
Yeah, and if you like the older school Ninja Gaiden games, It's a lot of fun. One of the things I didn't talk about because I hadn't got there yet last week because the game had come out on Thursday and I played it for a couple hours was you play as like two ninjas in this game. You play as Kenji and you play as Kamara. And Kenji has a sword, right? Kamara has like the throwing kunai. Well, at some point they merge into one person. So you're playing as Kenji with the sword, but you can also throw the weapons with B, so you could kind of throw her kunai at people. And then there's like some platforming challenges where you basically play as her, and you have limited time to get somewhere else. So they combine characters, and then if you find reach certain points, like when they grade you, you might unlock talismans or different weapons, which then you can buy from a shop and equip them. So you don't necessarily have to use the kunai. If you find a grenade, you can get a grenade, and you might like that better. Or so there's different weapons you can choose from, different talismans that could help out your run or hurt your run. Like there's talismans where it's like, hey, checkpoints don't give you health, but it increases your rank +1 because every time you beat a chapter or beat a level, it ranks your performance, gives you like a D or C, B, A, all the way up to S++. So if you put on the talismans, which make it harder, it increases your rank, so your final score is better. Or you can equip things that make it easier, like, hey, you do more damage when you have less health. Or, things cost half as much to use, like special abilities and things like that. So you can kind of tweak it to get exactly how you want. And then once you beat the game, you unlock hard mode, which is way more difficult. They're kind of remix levels with more enemies.
It feels like hard mode.
I mean, yeah, but this, like, I tried it out. Oh, it's so. I don't think I'm good enough, honestly. You know what I mean? Like, I was playing, I'm like, I don't know if I'm good enough to do this, to beat this all again. But yeah, the remix levels, different enemy placements, bosses have more moves and stuff, so it's a lot harder for those that want the challenge, right? That proper challenge that like a retro Ninja Gaiden game can give you. But I thought it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed my time with Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. But then also, thanks to Xbox, I was able to play a preview of Ninja Gaiden 4.
Ooh.
From Platinum Games,
that's
Team
the main
Ninja.
event.
And, I played it the other day, and it was just the first, 3 levels. So basically the beginning of the game you get your hands on with. One of the first things I always do in a game is I look at the options to see what sort of settings they are, because I have to invert my the vertical, right? Because I'm a weirdo, but I'm not a weirdo. I'm in the right. Inverted is the only way to play. But I noticed that in the performance or in the graphics settings, there's three settings. One's quality mode, one's performance mode targeting 60 frames, and they have a 120 frames mode as well. So if you do want that extra frame rate, there is an option for it. Because, this game, Jez, not only is hard, right? Like, first couple levels, you get into the fights, I'm losing half my health bar. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh yeah, this is proper Ninja Gaiden. But man, the battles are fast and intense and incredibly bloody. And I know how much you love your blood and guts, right?
Oh, I sure do.
I know how much you love that. I mean, you are decapitating fools. So you know when the first level of the game is basically like a tutorial level. You're on a train. Enemies come and they teach you the combat and all this sort of stuff. You have a light attack on X and a heavy attack on Y. And the dodging's on right trigger. So it really does have one of those mechanics, kind of like Bayonetta, where you can dodge out of the way, but it slows down time or it slows your character. So if you just dodge at the perfect instant while holding right trigger and hitting the stick, you'll do this move where you just dodge the enemy, but there's like a trail of a bunch of like an after image of you dodging, and then and the pairing's there, but like pairing's done differently than I would expect pairing to be done. Like maybe I'm used to just pairing being on right bumper as its own button where you would parry attacks. This one, you have to actually attack right when they attack, and you'll parry them. But when you're in combat, you can choose, at least in this preview, you had 2 different weapons to choose from. You had basically two swords, but you also had this longer like sword that I don't exactly remember what it was called, but it wasn't as quick, but it was definitely deadlier, at least to me. I don't know. It seemed like maybe you're doing more damage. So I would switch in between those, because there are these like obliterations you can do. There's these executions you can do that all have their different sort of canned animation for. Because when you get into a fight, when you get into an area and there's like 2 guys shooting at you and 3 guys running at you, right? It's just intense because you move so fast, the enemies move so fast, and you're just pulling off combos that, like, when you cut off someone's arm or leg and you press Y on them, you do this like short little animation where you basically just either chop their head off, it all depends on the weapon you're using, because each one of the weapons will have a different animation or a different way to kill them. So you're just going crazy pulling off all these moves, dodging, parrying, attacking, and then you'll press Y on somebody and just this instant bloody execution, and then you'll do it to somebody else and you do another one but a different way. So it's like it's a constant. Enemies keep on coming, and you just got to be on your toes. If you hold left bumper, it opens up a wheel of like, hey, health. You could buy some of these things, because as you're playing through and beating enemies, you're in like ninja coin, which is like, okay, we got some ninja coin, Jez. Everybody in chat, did you stock up on your ninja coin?
Ninja coin.
So you use that to buy, I'm assuming, moves, because all the moves in the build were unlocked, but I'm assuming, because while I was playing, it'd be like a new move unlocked. I'm assuming you probably have to buy those from one of those, there's a guy who kind of follows you around that you can talk to that shows you the moves, and then you can practice the moves. I'm assuming that you use the coins to buy some of the moves, just like you would use the coins at the terminals. Because you have someone talking in your... Because the story is like, whatever. It's like, it's gobbledygook to me. Something about the Dragon Lord being resurrected or something. I don't really know. It's just like, whatever. I'm not up on my Ninja Gaiden lore. So, like, I don't really know. It's been a long time since I played a Ninja Gaiden game. No, I did not play Ninja Gaiden 2 Black when it got remastered earlier this year. So it's been quite a long time. So, like, you know, the dialogue is...
People are calling out your pronunciation.
Yeah, I know. It's
Gaiden.
Ninja Gaiden. I say it both ways. You probably say it wrong, but that's just how I say it, I guess. Ninja Gaiden. So yeah, there's stories there. I don't know, like whatever. It's all gobbledygook to me. All I really want to do is just smoke fools, and that's where the game really shines. Right, you're in this like dark, dreary Tokyo cyberpunk setting, and the maps are. I wouldn't say the maps really. It's not like a big open world map. There are multiple paths sometimes to go, because there are side missions you can get at terminals, which kind of surprised me when I first got to the first terminal, and it was like, okay, you can buy health items here, you can buy defensive items, you can buy power-ups with your ninja coin, which you get from killing enemies.
Why is it ninja coin?
That's what they call it in the game. They just call it ninja coin. I don't know.
Wasn't it spirit or something in the other games?
I don't know. It's ninja coin. But there's like side missions you can access, which they're not. It's kind of like, okay, there's a group of enemies over here. We want you to find this thing in somewhere. Right? They're kind of really basic, or we want you to... there's one that was like kill enemies basically with this weapon. When you do that, you'll get rewards like more money or specific item or a power up that were like, hey, if you have this and this, then you get more maximum health and stuff. So as you're going through the levels and you're running super quick, right? And honestly, like you didn't play as Ryu in the beginning, but you can't, like, the game does have like where chapter select and also like a training stuff where you can choose chapter select, and even though you don't play the beginning levels with Ryu, if you do choose to replay the chapters, you can choose who you want to play as and stuff. So there is that, and I'm assuming Ryu comes into the story at some point, but this is kind of just the beginning of the game. As you're going through the levels, Jez, I can't wait for this because you know the yellow paint discourse that has always plagued stuff.
Oh yeah. And climbing things.
It's gonna come back on this one because there are yellow plates telling you kind of what way to go, what things you can wall run on, what things, like kind of it pushes you in a direction, even though there's really only one way to
patronizing?
go. It's not the worst implementation I've ever seen of it, but I can definitely see someone like Kotaku or another outlet out there talk about
Windows Central,
the whole yellow paint stuff, right? Where it's like it's like a ramp that leads you to wall run or to go in a direction, but sometimes there's another path. Oh my god, 2 paths to go, or if I just look around the corner, I might go a different path. And if you do go down the other way, you usually find where those side missions are. Like, oh, there's these 3 enemies I gotta kill, but the 3 enemies are kind of tough. Or there's boxes that you can open up for health items and stuff, and one of them might actually have the thing you're looking for. So it's kind of the game. So the map layout, there's really nothing I would say unique about the level design, at least in the first couple levels I did, where you're kind of just running around really fast, checking to see where the stuff is, getting to where you need to get by wall running. You do get a grapple, I think, in Chapter 2, which lets you grapple off of certain objects, and then you kind of start, there's that, it's very Platinum-esque, but like, where you jump on a rail and you start, like, gliding really fast on a rail, and then you gotta avoid trains and things of that nature. It reminds me like, oh, this is kind of like a Platinum special, but all in all, the combat's the star of the show. Absolutely. It's bloody, which didn't really get old, these executions. It's hard, which is I think what it needs to be, because that's the Ninja Gaiden way. And there are 4 difficulties to select. I was playing on normal. There is like a easier difficulty, which I'm sure some people will be like, oh man, that's disgusting, because it does offer a lot of assists for you when you play on the lowest difficulty. But then there's like hard and Master Ninja, which Master Ninja seems like it's going to be a problem. You probably need to be a Ninja Gaiden god to be able to beat it on that, because even on normal, like I said, I get into a big fight with, they'll throw like, okay, here's 5 enemies, you start killing them off. They'll drop like blood bubbles, like it'll be like a orb of red of their blood. You picked it up and you get some health back, but then there'll be more enemies coming. So there'll be like a bunch of enemies, and you don't get a lot back from those orbs. And if you're not really dodging or parrying correctly, like you'll get hit. There's certain attacks you can't block. You do have another form that you can like enhance your attacks with. It's like by holding left trigger. It's called like the Bloodhaven form, and Ryu has his own form where it empowers, like for instance, like your sword, your regular sword. But if you're holding left trigger, now the sword is red and it's really long, so you do more damage. But also, if somebody like attacks you while you have that, you like kind of instantly parry them, do more damage. Sometimes enemies, when they're blocking, can only be damaged by the Bloodhaven form. I think it's Bloodhaven. I think that's what it's called. But so there's like things there that you have to kind of like. So there's a lot of things to remember, like the regular combat, and then dodging and parrying on the right trigger, but then activating left trigger with the different mode, different weapons. But all in all, man, like the combat's the star of the show. It's pretty damn good. It's definitely kind of what I want from Platinum, because there's always the sense of, okay, Platinum's making this game, right? Like they're co-developing. I think they're the primary developer on this, and people are wondering how Platinum would be after the loss of so many, like leadership talent, right? I think Kamiya left, and he took a whole bunch of people with him. A lot of the older talent at the studio is gone. So I think this, because Lord Cognito had a interview. He went to Japan to play the game, and he interviewed like the game director and stuff.
Sam at Windows Central.
Yeah, so did Sam at Windows Central, and
I'm very, very lucky. Very jealous.
Yeah, so like this is basically a young team, young director, trying to make their name for themselves. And with Platinum, as we've always said, you either get like the A team, who puts out masterpieces and great games like Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance and Bayonetta, and things and Nier Automata and stuff like that, or then you get the B team or the C team, where you're putting out not good games for I don't want to say worse, but like Platinum's
say your piece, Rand.
Platinum's B teams and C tier games were usually awful. I don't know if there's any other developer out there whose gap between the top team and the lower teams is so transparent and so obvious. How could you go from making a masterpiece like the Bayonetta games or Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance or Nier, but then also put out stuff like a crappy Ninja Turtles IP game or Legend of Korra, or I think there was even a game they released for PlayStation a couple years ago that was like a Babylon's Fall, right?
That was them?
That was them, yeah. So people are just like, man, but playing this, it's like, okay, like I think Platinum's got it. I think this is going to be what fans of Ninja Gaiden want. The story's not going to be much because it's just a bunch of gobbledygook, but maybe Ninja Gaiden fans care. I could maybe see the level design wearing on people in the future, because that was the first couple things, and like it really only is like you're just trying to get to the next combat area, right? There are little different areas you can go to explore and find like purgatory arenas where you go through waves and waves of enemies. There was even this one thing I found where it was like I was fighting a whole bunch of demons and they kicked my ass. It was like I hadn't seen any, and it was like, oh, an otherworld gate or something, and then it was like these big demons crawled out of it and these small demons, and I was fighting them, and they killed me pretty quickly, and I was like, holy crap, what was that? That was really cool. What was that, So there's things you can find off the beaten path, but for the most part it's straightforward. Did a couple of the boss fights. Those were a lot of fun. But yeah, super excited for Ninja Gaiden 4. Hopefully the rest of the game follows in the footsteps of what this preview offered, because it was only the first couple levels, but couple chapters. But yeah, man, I liked it, And even Jez, for you, it's got the easy mode. It's got that hero mode, bro. Even you can play it, you know what I mean?
Well, I've been playing the original Ninja Gaiden on and off here on my Xbox. Like, is it Ninja Gaiden Sigma or Ninja Gaiden Black or something like that? And everyone tells me online, like, oh, that's the easy version or something like that. I'm like, what? This is the easy version? Because I'm just getting my ass handed to me left, right, and center. Like, the mobs will just gang upon you and just squeeze you into a corner and just won't let you move until you're dead. Just slashing and slashing and slashing. So, tell you that I'm playing it wrong. I don't know. I think I'm about, like, 4 or 5 chapters through now, or something like that. I don't know, but it's pretty fun. You know, I'm enjoying it for what it is. It's quite retro and old school and all that kind of stuff. By modern standards, it feels a bit like a Xbox. Well, it was an Xbox 360 game, wasn't it? Or was it
Which
even
one?
older than that?
Ninja Gaiden.
The original.
That was the
original
OG
Xbox
OG
game?
Xbox game.
Yeah, so you know,
Two
it's
two is on
kind
the
of gone.
360.
Yeah, gone back to the past a little bit here, but I've been enjoying it, man. It's pretty fun. So I'll check out the new one. I mean, I'm all about hack and slash with no plot.
Oh yeah,
Sounds pretty
this is
interesting
not
to
a
me.
Souls-like. So for anybody out there is like, not a Souls-like. This is a hack and slash game, you know. And it's also a difficult
hardcore
one.
one.
At least I found parts of it difficult. Like I think the first main fight you get to in chapter 2, I lost half my health, and I'm like, what is this? You know what I mean? Like, half my health is gone. But it's one of the things where I'm so used to parrying a certain way that parrying the way they want you in this game is a little something I gotta get used to, and like the dodging seems to be more important than maybe the parrying is. So it was just something that I was kind of like, all right, well, this is something I need to focus on.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't even think you can parry in the original. And if you can, I don't know how to do it. You can block.
yes,
And I
you can
spend a
block
lot
in
of time
this.
just
Yeah,
blocking.
hold the right trigger and you kind of block, but then you move you move it around. If you block, if you dodge at the right time, you'll move around them, and if you attack just as they're attacking you, you'll parry them, and all that good stuff. But man, I can't wait for you to get your hands on, because you'll just love it because of the blood, guts, and gore, the dismemberment. You're gonna be like, yes,
I like that.
this is what Starfield was missing.
Starfield really is missing that shit. But you're telling me you're gonna put a game in with 0G and then not let me have 0G gore? You seriously telling me that?
They
But yeah,
they told you
I
that,
don't know.
bro.
They told me that, yeah.
So that was my
from what I've heard, they're gonna make up for it in Elder Scrolls 6 on the gore front.
yeah. So that was my experience with Ninja Gaiden 4. Looking forward to. I think it comes out the 19th of October. So what are we? 2 months and some change away. October has got a lot of Xbox games. It's got that. It's got Keeper. It's got Outer Worlds 2.
Still don't know what Keeper is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a Double Fine game, so
Nobody knows what
you
it is.
you can guess it's gonna be crazy, but unique. October's packed because October's got Battlefield 6. I think it's also got Arc Raiders. It's got Ghost of Yotai.
Oh, Arc Raiders was out.
No, Arc Raiders comes out like at the 30th of October, I believe.
That's a thing, extraction shooter, right?
Yes, that is an extraction shooter. So
Fair enough.
Let me take a look at some of the super chats, see what people are talking about. We got Impressive Brew joining the channel member. Thank you very much. Enjoy the emojis. We got Gamblin. The super chat says, first time catching your stream live. I used to listen on Walmart night shifts. Okay, I think that was the first person I've ever seen who said they used to listen to us while they were working at Walmart. We've had truck drivers, Jez, and now we got Walmart knife shifters.
Actually, one of my sources works at Walmart.
Oh, okay.
And gets me all the retail cheers. So yeah, I think we've got a few people who work at Walmart. Shout out to the Walmart fam.
Your IT job advice to my job search help. I'm now in college for CS data analytics and landed a chill IT job. That must have been all Jez.
Oh,
then,
nice.
because it definitely wasn't me.
Yeah, I used to work in IT. I didn't have qualifications, but those were the qualifications I was gonna get if I stayed in that job. But then I ended up at Windows Central, so I ended up still not doing any qualifications. But honestly, I think if I did ever lose my job at Windows Central, I'd maybe give YouTubing a go, but I think I'd also just do an IT qualification because I really did enjoy IT. It's really you feel like you're helping people, you know. It feels like you kind of feel like you're doing like a doctor, but for computers. So it feels fulfilling. And then you see someone's face light up when you fix their stuff. It's kind of, even if all you did was reboot it, which was half the battle, I think. Have you tried rebooting it? Turn it off and on again? Especially with printers. But
Those,
yeah,
those
it's cool. It's
dastardly
cool to hear.
printers, yeah. We have, let's see, we got Silas, member for 21 months, says, Rand, in a different timeline, your sister married Jez. Oh, God. What would be harder, having him as a brother-in-law or supporting your nephew's World of Warcraft editions? One, it would make me question my sister's taste in men, for starters.
Bro, what are you talking about? I'd be a catch for your sister.
Yeah?
What's the number, bro?
But then again, I don't know, Silas, in a different world if this would happen, because as we currently know, the current Jez that we all know and love has been dating his girlfriend for 12 years and they're not married yet. So I doubt he would actually marry my sister. They'd still be dating into their 50s. So I wouldn't really have to worry about that. I mean, I guess WoW wouldn't be any different than, my current nephews are basically addicted to Roblox, and I think they spend a lot of my money when I give it to them in Roblox cards. So Roblox, World of Warcraft, is there really a difference?
Oh my God.
You know what I mean?
I knew you were going to say that.
It doesn't really seem like it. In fact, Roblox seems like probably more cultural relevant than World of Warcraft ever has been. When you get right down to it.
One of the topics you've listed is, or was that for last week? Roblox dating.
Yeah.
Roblox dating is a thing now.
Yes, Roblox potentially in the future.
Roblox dating. Yeah, I don't know. Excuse me though, Rand. World of Warcraft is very, very culturally significant. I'll have you know.
Mm-hmm. Not as culturally significant as Roblox is. It's just better.
Yeah, but is anything as significant as Roblox? It's so strange. Roblox is so strange. Like it's one of the. It really does underpin how much of a bubble the console war is, because almost nobody that I speak to in the Xbox community plays Roblox.
No.
But it's also one of the biggest games in the universe of history, supposedly. So,
yep,
just goes to show like how much of a bubble consoling can be.
We have Rave Damos, who says XB2 has been multiplat for years. Xbox filed suit. Now Sony is too. Xbox 2 setting industry trends. Hit the like button. Hit the like button.
Well, Rand is multi-platform, and I suppose I play on PC, so I'm technically multi-platform.
Yes.
Speaking of playing on PC, Rand, World of Warcraft new season just dropped, bro. You hyped? Hyped for the new season, bro?
World of Warcraft new season?
Yeah, bro.
Nobody cares about that, bro. Sorry.
Come on. We're going to Koresh. We're going to fight Dimensius. City-sized raid boss. That's cool. No? No. Rand?
When are you raiding?
That's cool, right? The raid's not open yet. So the first raid night is actually when I'm at Gamescom. So I'm going to miss the first raid. Damn.
Oh, that's too bad.
It's too bad. It's
too
bad.
When is Gamescom? A couple weeks?
A couple of weeks, yeah. But these are the sacrifices I make for the Xbox community and the Xbox 2 universe, bro.
What, by playing World of Warcraft raiding? No, it's not.
No. Like, by missing my raid to go to Gamescom, I'm sacrificing myself for the Xbox community to go and bring them great content from Gamescom for the podcast. I'm sacrificing myself. I hope you guys are happy about this.
What are you looking forward to the most checking out at Gamescom? I think we might have asked this last week, but is there anything? I mean, how full is your schedule? You got a lot of appointments, a lot of interviews set up, a lot of things.
Honestly, my schedule this year is worse than it's ever been.
Oh,
like in terms of like how much there's packed in, like in terms of how much stress I've put myself under. Because every time I do Gamescom, I think, right, next year I need to not book so much stuff, because you're running around, you got tons and tons of articles to write, and it's like there's not enough hours in the day, right? But I ignored my own advice from the previous Gamescom excursion and decided to book maybe even more than I did last time. So, but it's like you said, there's so much cool stuff coming out that's really exciting to try out. But I tell you, one of the things I'm most excited to try out for the first time is probably Resident Evil Requiem. So Resident Evil Requiem, and honestly Pragmata as well, and also Onimusha. So Capcom has a trifecta this year, which is going to be interesting. I'm also very intrigued by the World of Warcraft expansion. Yeah. She's going to be showing up at Gamescom. So's I think. Is that public? Yeah, it's public. So there's that as well. And the AVJ in chat says, isn't Jez excited for the real Midnight expansion? Yeah. So we're doing that as well. But like the Xbox booth is crazy this year. They've got 120 stations, Rand. Microsoft has 120 playable stations at their booth this year. And I remember, Rand, a few years ago, during the Terry Myerson era, the dark times, bro, when Xbox at Gamescom had like nothing. They had nothing to show. And now they're probably going to have the biggest booth by a mile. This is like such a turnaround, I think.
Well, let me ask you
It
this.
really is.
What do you think about GameSpot's article about how Xbox was a platform that you shouldn't invest in anymore?
Do we have to talk about that?
I mean, I don't know. Well, you're talking. I mean, why not? Is that this is a podcast where we talk about a whole different. What exactly was the gist of their article?
So the gist of their article was that Xbox is chaotic, and the thing is, this is all things that Xbox fans we've known this for years about Xbox being chaotic and changing tactics. It's kind of what they do, right? But I think it's weird to just come out and say like, why invest in the platform at a point where they're making more money.
This was the
than
headline. Xbox is an increasingly unstable platform for anyone to invest in.
Yeah, I don't see how that's. See, there are many things that you can and should honestly criticize Xbox for, right? But I would argue instability is not one of them, especially considering like back in the day, games, especially Japanese games, were skipping Xbox left, right, and center. And I'm not saying that things are perfect right now, but I'm saying like Xbox has more support from publishers, probably more than ever, you know. And also the promise of next gen having Steam, you know, is really going to close the content gap. In theory, the next Xbox will have more content on it than any console in history because it's going to have every storefront in history on a single box, right? While still, hopefully, retaining affordable console-like prices. That comment might come to bite me back in the ass, but I think Microsoft knows that at the end of the day, there's a hard limit on how much people will spend on a traditional kind of console, right? So the thing, I would not criticize Xbox for its perceived instability. I criticize them for a lot of things. I criticize Microsoft as a company for not having a little bit more patience with some of their projects, seeing them through to the end, instead of just cutting and running, maybe. But even that's hard to say because it's like, I don't know what kind of state some of these cancelled projects were in. Maybe they were just maybe if like they actually showed us what the project was like, it'd be like, oh yeah, I can see why they've cancelled that. But stability is definitely not something I criticize them for. I mean,
it really seems like the article was mostly about, you know, the layoffs and the cancellations and stuff like that. And like, oh, sometimes they release bad games, but sometimes they release good games and blah, 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 blah. It's I saw that article. I was like, well, somebody needed to hit their monthly view total this month, because you know that got everybody quote retweeting that article. You know, definitely got the attention that the author of the article probably intended. Right? It is a dramatic title with, obviously it's like, hey, I mean, its premise is that you shouldn't invest in Xbox anymore, and that's going to get people really riled up.
Yeah.
So
I think the proper take with that, the instability comments and that kind of thing will be like, why would you want to work at Xbox? You know, I think that would be the proper take, because from all accounts, Xbox isn't treating its staff and its projects with the respect that you would hope a big company would treat them with. And I've heard things like people had accepted a job from Xbox, moved our entire family across the country, and then
Yeah, but
that shit had been shut
that's
down.
not unique
Yeah.
to Microsoft or Xbox. I
No,
mean, I've
it's
read
definitely
those
not.
horror stories all over the place in a lot of industries where it's like, I quit my job
It's
here and
definitely
I
not.
moved across the United States, and then within a month I lost my job and I got nowhere to go. Right? Like,
Yeah, it's definitely not unique to Xbox, but even then, like a lot of the criticisms that the article does leverage at Xbox, which is like, oh, they're canceling games, they're shutting down studios. Like, hasn't Sony done that as well?
sure.
And the only reason we never hear about Nintendo shutting down studios is because Nintendo doesn't even give their studios names. Nintendo studios are just called business units. So like when Nintendo closes down a business unit, it's we never hear about any of that stuff, you know. Um
Yeah, and
so
I'm sure they all
I
have
don't know.
canceled games. But the thing is, with Xbox, what kind of makes it different is they announce their games and keep it in the zeitgeist for years to make it seem like a product is coming, only for them to pull the rug out on it. That's not
I
something
genuinely think
PlayStation and
I
Nintendo
gotta
have done.
yeah.
Like, I can't think. I mean, we
Go
know
for it.
PlayStation has a ton of canceled games this generation. In fact, their CEO was talking about, yeah, our games as service push didn't go so well, or whatever term they use, and it's like, really? It hasn't gone so well? They used some term that made it seem like, oh, you know, it wasn't that bad, or something. Let me get their actual quote. Hold on.
It's not on track, something like that.
Yeah, and it's like, what was it? Because I saw it and I just like raised my eyebrows. I was like, really? Oh, it's not entirely going smoothly. Yeah, you fucking think? Like, you had the biggest bomb in gaming history with Concord. Something that you supposedly lost like $400 million on, that you thought was going to be your next Star Wars, that you put out and nobody cared, and literally had to shut the game down after 2 weeks and then close the studio. Not going smoothly. I mean, not to mention all the games that you canceled as well. Like, there's, I don't know the running total, but you're talking about 6, 7, 8 games. And, you know, I think probably the problem is, like, those games were all unannounced. And Xbox's games were all announced, and they've been announced for like 5 years. And in some cases, we've seen 2 trailers from them. And like last year, we saw Perfect Dark, and everyone's like, "Oh, that looks really cool." Only then next year being like, "Oh, by the way, you're never going to be able to play this." It's like, well, why would you show me something if I can't have it? You know?
My take on that is there was a gamble on corporate politics there, where they're like, okay, if we show this off, corporate can't cancel it. You know,
Well,
kind of like a game of corporate chicken. I genuinely think that might be a thing, but I don't know. It is what it is, man. But I think that article is just super dramatic, and I mean, it's kind of tough when you are in a job where your job is to share opinions, you know, and people are just like, oh, that's you just want clicks, you know. It's like, well, yeah, no shit, you know, it's my job to get clicks. It's my job to share my opinion, you know. Maybe that is that dude's genuine opinion on that stuff, but I kind of feel like if you are someone who's active in the Xbox ecosystem, you are a customer, you are invested in the ecosystem, I think you might have a completely different opinion on it. It's just quite clear sometimes when journalists don't have any interest or investment or any sort of stake whatsoever in Xbox, because it just makes it an easy target. It's like, I can just be like, I can shit on this all day for clicks, and it's completely fine because I don't care about Xbox, my audience doesn't care about Xbox, and it's just a great way to get some free clicks on this motherfucker, right? And I think Xbox has really borne the brunt of that for a long time now, because that's what happens when you're the smallest platform. You don't have that fan base. You have an audience that doesn't care about you and maybe even wants to shit on you and wants to see you fail because, you know, for whatever reason, maybe they're fanboys, or maybe at least before the days of Microsoft going multi-platform, I mean, you could say people had a vested interest in seeing Xbox fail because it would mean a lot of those games would become multi-platform and come to their the platform of choice, right? But now Microsoft's gone multi-platform, you'd think the hype would stop, but it feels like it's gotten even worse in some degrees. I don't know. But yeah, Code Week in chat says hashtag tax. Is this the Xbox tax, Rand? It's the Xbox tax returned
Yeah, people could
from
say,
the dead?
People could say that, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, the fact we're talking about it even now just shows like
Well,
the way discourse works.
Because I got DM'd about it, and they're like, what is this? What do you think? And I'm just like, you know, what are you going to do, right? That's one of those things that, you know, this is a Microsoft problem. I mean, they're the ones, you know, with their changing of strategy, with them canceling games and all that sort of stuff. Like, people are going to feel a certain way about your ecosystem and whether or not, you know, you should invest any money there or not, or go buy stuff elsewhere. I mean, it's a problem that they've cultivated, and people are going to talk about it, and it's definitely a topic that does drive interest from both parties. So it's going to get clicks, especially when you have a big website like, you know, Gamespot talking about it that directly with that much of a dramatic headline. People are going to click on it and be like, what is this guy talking about? You know? We're in a different era where
the Xbox era.
This isn't like the Xbox One era or, you know, the 360 era. Like, gaming has changed in a lot of ways. And I think journalists have been used to it only being this way for so long that now it's sort of changing really quickly in some aspects that they're not really sure how to change with it. So they look at something that's kind of bucking the trends, and they're like, well, that's not good. In fact, that's awful. Right?
I mean, one of the things that gets me about Xbox is like literally what the chat just said in
what the chat just said in chat.
The chat just said in chat. Yeah, I can't pronounce his name because it's AOOAOOAPOOPA. But he just said, of all the three console ecosystems, Xbox is still the most consumer friendly, but the gaming media does not care about that. They provide the most value and ease of access to games, and the media shuns that. I mean, it's completely true. Rand, can you imagine the amount of hate I get, right? If I wrote an article that was like, Xbox is the most consumer-friendly of the three big platforms. Can you imagine the amount of hate I get? But it's honestly absolutely true. When you've got Game Pass, the amount of value Game Pass provides for you, the access it gives you with cloud, and then you've got like the Xbox Series S, which, you know, the media hated on, but is a great device for people to buy if they can't afford one of the higher end systems. No, I mean, yeah, Microsoft put the price up, but it's still the cheapest out there. And the fact they even tried to offer a more affordable system, and then also took all the hate from the developers, you know, and took all the shitstorm from people like, oh, the Series S runs this like shit. There's still millions of people using that device for economic reasons or whatever else, right? Or parents trying to let their kids access Roblox in the most affordable way possible. This side of a secondhand iPad, I suppose. But you know, I think that's worth something. You know, I think that is worth something, and it's true. The medium doesn't really talk about it. Xbox fans kind of take that for granted. You know, I was surprised when I did have a PlayStation briefly that I have to pay for cloud saves, because I take that for granted that it's free on the Xbox ecosystem.
Yes.
Imagine the hate I get, bro. Do I want that energy in my life?
No, but I mean, it definitely is like physical bros might be like, well, Xbox is not consumer friendly because they don't make a lot of their games don't come physically, so you know they would not like that. But yeah, I mean, you could write an article. I mean, Xbox Play Anywhere giving you a copy of a console version and a copy of a PC version, and then
two versions.
Then if you own the game, it also gives you the ability to stream it if it's part of stream your own games. And that's essentially giving you 3 licenses to play it in 3 different places. Nobody else is really doing that right now. I I mean, the closest you can maybe say is like Steam, because like Steam's like, all right, well, you could play the game on this PC you bought. You could play it on your Windows gaming handhelds or your Steam Deck or whatever. But PlayStation doesn't offer that, and neither does Nintendo. So if you were to make an article based on just like the Play Anywhere thing about how they're the most consumer friendly because you get so much out of it, you definitely would come with people being like, yeah, they'd be like, what the fuck you mean? And then it would probably devolve into exclusives or some other thing for other people to make their own points, right? But
exclusives are dead, bro.
Well, say that to Nintendo.
Yeah,
kitty
games don't count.
Nintendo ain't gonna care. They're
no,
just go to them and say exclusives are dead. They'll laugh in your face.
Have we seen? Do we know how many copies of Donkey Kong are sold yet?
I don't think so.
Probably a lot, right? 50 billion copies.
I don't know how many, but quite a bit.
I heard it was 50 billion copies, bro.
You should play some Donkey Kong. It'll do you good.
I mean, I would. I don't have a Switch, and I ain't buying one.
We have super chat here from let's see here. We got one from Deadly Headley. It says Battlefield is back. He said Battlefield is so back. Happy Friday, gents.
Sure is.
We got Mr. Gaming Forte himself, who says this podcast is still around. I thought Xbox was dead and buried in the mountains of Redmond. Miss talking to you both. Glad to see the show go on. Well, where else would the show be, Mr. Forte?
We going nowhere, baby. Even if Xbox is dead and buried in the ground, me and Rand will keep it going, even if 5 people are listening.
Yes.
Me and Rand are going to be doing this shit when we're 90 years old, bro.
Maybe. We got Frosty, who says, Rand, the NFL is back. With that said, will Caleb be the first Bears quarterback to hit 4,000 passing yards next season? He's got the coach and the weapons. Go Jets. Yes, he will be the first Bears quarterback to hit 4,000 passing yards. Lock that down. We got Big Afroman saying, man, seeing the PS6 and PS handheld leaks makes me really disappointed. Xbox isn't making its handheld anymore. Instead, we're getting a half step with the ROG. Any chance we might get a real one by Microsoft? So, Jez, did you see any of this stuff regarding the rumored PlayStation 6, rumored handheld console? I mean,
I haven't. You'll have to regale me with the info.
I haven't really been paying attention to any of those things. I don't really care, about PlayStation leaks per se. But it does seem like they are doing their own handheld. But that's been a rumor for quite some time. And Big Afroman says he kind of wishes Microsoft was doing their own handheld instead of relying on a half step like the ROG, the Ally X,
I completely agree, man.
Which is coming out October 16th, at least according to Billy Bun leaks, which usually are always right. So
Billy Kun.
Billy Kun. Yeah.
Or is it Billy Bun? I don't know.
Whatever.
Or is Billy Kun?
October 16th. Yeah, I mean, there's I don't know. You see, the whole thing with the handheld is such a thing where it's I don't care. I just don't have any interest in the handheld market.
Yeah, we know.
I personally don't. So, like, seeing PlayStation do it, okay, cool. Don't care. Now, it does make me wonder how it's going to be implemented, how it'll affect. Will it play PS6 games? Will PS6 games also just be PS5 games? How long will cross-gen last for the next gen if they want to be able to run those games on a handheld? Then you look at Xbox and it's like, okay, well, it does. Like, I understand why they decided they didn't want to do one, because you have these other ones. Plus, we have to make Windows 11 better for gaming. Otherwise, SteamOS might eat our lunch in the future, and that may impact more than just gaming. It could impact the Windows business itself and what have you. But it also...
AI business. Vomit.
So, like, here's the other thing. Sometimes, like, we know the Switch is its own kind of market by itself when it comes to handhelds, right? None of the current gaming PC handhelds even come close to sniffing what Nintendo Switch is doing, right? is in regards of a handheld.
Yeah.
And you
And
sort
that's
of wonder,
partially because it's their only console.
right? But you sort of wonder, like, sometimes it takes another company to come into a market to really drive interest in it. And I know Steam's there with the Steam Deck, and Steam is super popular, but the Steam Deck really isn't. But then Steam Deck, it's like you can only really get that from Valve. You can't get it anywhere else. Maybe they
No.
start promoting it more with the Steam Deck 2, right? But there's always that thought of like, okay, what happens if because the idea is that the gaming PC market, handheld market, is in its early infancy, and that 5-10 years from now it's going to be massive, and it's a market you need to be in because there's people there, and maybe people, young people grow up and they like the handhelds or whatever, and PlayStation is this big massive brand, and they haven't done a handheld in quite some time. So there's the idea that, well, maybe if PlayStation gets into that business and repopularizes the handheld that's not necessarily like a hybrid like the Switches or whatever, that maybe the whole rising tides lifts all boats theory, where it's like, because PlayStation, with how popular it is, has done a handheld, that drives more interest in handhelds overall. And of course, it'd be like one of those things where Microsoft ends up not doing one, so they don't see the benefit of that, rising tides thing. You know what I mean? Like, of course, but I still think is probably the right decision for them to try to make Windows 11 the best it possibly can be, because I look at it as like, okay, well, if you did your own handheld, as cool as it been, and yeah, it probably would have played all the Xbox games, and maybe that's what people needed. Maybe, see, I'm not sure how many Xbox fans are actually interested in the Xbox Ally. Like, let's just say it's 1 million people that are interested in the Xbox Ally. But what would that number be if it was an actual handheld from Xbox? Would the number jump to 5 million? Would the number jump to 10 million? Or would the number still just be like, it's still just 1 million? It's still those same people that are interested in that device, and there aren't many other, like, it doesn't really go beyond that, right? So we made the right decision, but I guess that's the thing, we'll never know. Like,
well, one thing, like, I mean, anecdotally speaking, it is interesting how many people say to me like, "Oh, I'm skipping the Xbox Ally because I'm waiting for the Xbox handheld," right? And Microsoft itself was like, or at least like sources were like, it's not cancelled, it's on hold to me, right? And I suppose it's very rare that something goes on hold and then comes back from the dead. But I also think like the next generation of chips from AMD is probably going to be quite a bit of a game changer with regards to the way they think about the Xbox ecosystem, at least from a silicon perspective. Because the whole idea of the next Xbox silicon is that it's like it's got PC cores, but it's also backwards compatible with the existing Xbox library, right? So that means Xbox One versions of games in essence. And obviously, I don't know the specifics about how much that shit's gonna cost, both from like a cost perspective, but also from like a power perspective. Presumably, that would require a lot more power than a handheld would be willing to dole out with today's technology, I suppose. But you have to presume that the whole premise of having a chipset or an APU that has those backwards compatible capability, is that something you work towards where you eventually do end up with a true, tried and tested Xbox handheld? Because at the end of the day, Microsoft doesn't make its own chips. It has to come in sideways through NVIDIA, AMD, or well, NVIDIA, I suppose, but it's going to be AMD, isn't it, with Xbox? So, personally, I think eventually Microsoft does do their own handheld. I don't think they can escape it. But I also think they will still have this family of APUs from AMD that allow OEMs to make their own handhelds, that allow OEMs to make their own Xbox consoles, and also maybe even allow OEMs to make their own, you know, marketable GPUs, you know, that people can literally buy off the shelf and make their own Xbox console PCs if they want to. You know, maybe that's the play. Maybe like eventually it's like this chipset becomes an off the shelf kind of thing. Maybe it's even like you can put these in servers and let companies make their own Xbox cloud servers, you know. Maybe that's where it all ends up going. And that eventually we just end up with this plurality of Xbox ecosystem devices that comes with the backwards compatibility of the Xbox ecosystem, at least for the near-term future, but also supports the breadth of Windows itself, whether it's mods, add-ons, apps, multitasking with different apps, and then also different storefronts like Steam, whatever. Maybe eventually Sony makes its own PC store and puts that on the Xbox, you know? So I do think they'll eventually make their own handheld, eventually. And they're working with AMD while they fine-tune Windows and work out the details and work out how all this stuff's going to work and get put together. But like one thing I keep hearing is that Xbox and Windows are working more closely than they've ever worked in history. So that kind of bodes well for the whole bridging of those ecosystems, right? So yeah, I do think there'll be an Xbox handheld someday, but it probably won't be until after AMD's explored what it can do with these new chips that they're working on with Microsoft.
Right, which we'll talk about in a little bit. What we have here? We have MO9CH says, when you hear Jez say, I've heard good things about it, run for the hills, haha. Rip Contraband, have a great live stream, Jez and Rand. Did you ever say that about Contraband? I don't think you did.
I don't think I ever said about Contraband, but I said it about something else.
You said that about State of the K3, I'm pretty sure.
No, on this show. What did I say it about? Oh, I can't remember what I said it about. I said it about a different game. Oh no, I said it about the Diablo expansion.
Oh.
So I said that I'd heard good things about the Diablo expansion, right?
Well,
shit, it's gonna get cancelled.
Diablo expansion about to get canceled.
Yeah. Shit. Damn.
You gotta be careful about what you say, Jez. Maybe you should say, heard good things about World of Warcraft. Oh, damn, World of Warcraft got canceled? Such a shame. Oh, no. What would you honestly do if you woke up one day and it was like, we are canceling World of Warcraft and shutting down the servers tomorrow? How would you feel?
Putting it in maintenance mode?
Yeah, like it's done. Like we are, like kind of what they're doing with Forza Motorsport. Did you see how that kind of blew up where like people were wondering what's going on? Like they hadn't tweeted in forever and people were wondering, and I think people wrote articles about Forza Motorsport, and then the next day or a couple days later, they wrote like an article about it, about what's going on.
Clobrilla put out a tweet about how egregious it was that Forza Motorsport hadn't tweeted or given fans an update after all the drama. And I saw that tweet and I was like, you know what? He's absolutely right. This is like a flagship Microsoft IP with millions of fans. And yeah, Motorsport didn't do spectacularly well. But at the end of the day, it's still like a flagship IP, and they're just letting it lie there. They don't have a plan for this. They don't even have the respect to update the fans about what's going on. So yeah, it did annoy me when I saw that tweet. So yeah, I had someone on our team wrote about it, and then a couple of days later they did offer an update because they must have been like, you know, they're absolutely right, and this is a flagship IP. And they're letting fans speculate about what's going on with it. But yeah, I did see the tweet and the update, and I suppose it's not beyond the expectations about what they're going to do with it. I suppose because like you said, motorsport as a genre is kind of not as big as it used to be. First of all, Horizon's eating its lunch with the casual audience, and probably the hardcore audience, racing audience to some degree. So it's not entirely shocking what's going on with it, but I will say this: for my part, I've heard that like there isn't like a hard plan to just never do a motorsport ever again. It's just more of a like We're just not. Forza Horizon's the focus in the near term. So I do think we see Motorsport again. I just, it's probably going to be a while.
That's very wishful thinking, Jez, because I don't think we ever see Forza Motorsport again. I think it's done and dusted, unfortunately. For the people that like Forza Motorsport franchise and the sim racing stuff, I don't think they'll ever do one again.
I think they will.
No, I do not think so. I think it's done.
I disagree.
I disagree with you.
Well, sure, bro. But maybe they just mix it into Flight Simulator, bro. And just rebrand it to Vehicle Simulator.
I mean, yeah, they could, but I don't think they ever do a handheld. I don't think they ever do another Forza Motorsport. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to be wrong, and then 7 years from now they do a handheld or whatever it would be, or a decade from now or something they do another Forza Motorsport, but I just don't see it. I think this is the last Forza Motorsport people are ever going to get. And you can have the greatest intentions in the world of being like, well, we kept the studio open and they're doing support on Forza Motorsport and they're doing support on Forza Horizon 5 and then potentially Forza Horizon 6 and we're not saying we'll never could do it. Maybe there are plans to do a Forza Motorsport. I don't even know what you would call the next one. Maybe we'll do it like the launch of the next console or whatever after a certain amount of time has been gone and people begin to miss it. Not like there hasn't been how many years in between Forza Motorsport and the last one? It was like 7 years or something like that. It was like 2017 to 2023,
yeah. So
like a long time. And I don't know. I just look at these. I don't see Microsoft or Xbox as a company that just like shelves something and then intends to come back to it. It's just like they shelve it and it stays shelved. They're not coming back to it, bro. Sorry.
I came back to Perfect Dark. Oh, never mind. I came back to Phantom Dust. Oh, never mind.
Oh, they did a remaster of Phantom Dust. Remember that was the whole thing.
Yeah.
At least that's. I mean, like I said, hope to be wrong.
I came back to Voodoo Vince.
Yeah, hope to be wrong, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, maybe. Right.
We got Goat Gaming who says, "Do you think it's fair industry experts are calling Phil Spencer a genius after Sony's new direction announcement?" Who's calling Phil Spencer a genius? What industry experts?
Michael Pachter.
That sounds like completely made up. Because
I don't know.
That would be all over if that was the case. And so I would say nobody's saying that, at least publicly.
I mean, there is this sort of discourse that like, oh, Phil's right, he predicted it and all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, they literally just looked at the numbers and the trends and the spreadsheets and they were like, okay, this is what's happening. These are where these players are going. The Gen Z is becoming, buying credit cards and now they've got their own money. And where are Gen Z going? They're going to PC, so, and also we can't acquire PlayStation users. I mean, Phil said it himself into Kind of Funny. He said, no matter what we do, we're not going to shift PlayStation gamers to Xbox. There's just no way of doing it. The cost of user acquisition is too high. I think he said something like, even if Starfield was 99% on Metacritic, it wouldn't turn PlayStation gamers into Xbox gamers. At best, it would like make people pick up a Xbox console as a companion device, and then that's it. Because at the end of the day, what you need is for people to play all their games on your system, not just a couple. And we've moved beyond that now. We've moved beyond that universe where people shift between platforms. It's like you, Rand. You own a PlayStation, but you don't really use it for anything but exclusives. I own a gaming PC, but I only use it for exclusives. I am habitually an Xbox gamer first, and everything else is just kind of like, well, I'll play there every now and then, but mostly no. Everyone's sort of decided what their habits are, and they're sticking with it. So Phil just follow the money. To its logical conclusion, right? So I think Phil's a good businessman, but certainly made some mistakes, right?
I mean, yeah, that's true.
but I couldn't do what he does. And I think a lot of the people who sit there and claim to know how to run a business would probably, end a company like Sony or Microsoft in like 5 minutes.
Yeah. Speaking of something else Xbox happened, the Design Lab came back.
Yeah, it did.
The Gear Shop went under, just like the Design Lab, and people were wondering, like, what's going on here? No Gear Shop and no Design Lab? And then Design Lab's like, surprise, we're back. I was like, okay. Anything new show up at the Design Lab, Jez?
I think there were a couple of new skins, or at least skins I hadn't seen before. There was a Call of Duty Black Ops 6 skin, which might have been there already.
I think it was.
I'm not sure.
I think it was there for the launch of the game.
Yeah, fair enough. There was some translucent
controller.
Yeah, the Fallout controller I'd seen before. There's some translucent skins and stuff like that, but that was a weird one. Like, does it really take 7 months, 8 months to change payment processor? That was an odd one.
Well,
yeah,
depending on what payment processor they have, maybe that payment processor was trying to ban it because they didn't like what they were selling, huh?
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
You're talking about MasterCard and Visa, aren't you, then?
Yeah.
That whole drama. But yeah, I was kind of annoyed about this whole Design Lab thing, because I'd literally written an article that morning. Like, the gear shop's gone offline, and the Design Lab's been offline for 8 months. What's going on? And then literally like 2 hours later, like, hey, the Design Lab's back. I was like, what?
It's like they did that. They did that to screw with you, Jez. They're like,
yeah, they it was all to spite me, to ruin my day. Thanks Microsoft, but no, it's good. It's good that it's back. I honestly thought that was just gonna mysteriously never come back online,
Yeah.
It's good that it's back, because I've used it a lot. I buy a lot of gifts through it. I bought my girlfriend a controller. I bought cousin a controller. I bought my brother a controller. With their favorite colors and little engraving. It's a really cool thing, right? It's a nice thing. I always hope that expand it out to consoles, And I don't know what the assembly line would look like for that. But one thing I did see this week, Rand, was a very interesting glass Xbox Series X. I don't know if you saw this. It went a little bit viral.
Glass?
Yeah.
No. I didn't see it.
So, or it was, I don't know, transparent acrylic or something. But it was like a see-through custom Xbox. And it looked really, really cool. And I was like, shit. No, I want one of those. Yeah, like you could see all its internals and stuff, a bit like a PC, right? Because all PCs have like glass on them now. Yeah, it was kind of cool to see. Yeah, I was always thinking, like, it'd be cool if we could make custom Xbox consoles through the Design Lab, but it never materialized. But yeah, since you brought up Visa and MasterCard, should we talk about that for a little while? I mean, that shit pissing me off, bro.
Go ahead. The floor is yours. Talk about it.
I mean, for those that don't know, one of the other news been blowing up is Itch and Steam removed a bunch of completely legal adult games recently, and they blamed Visa and MasterCard payment processors for saying that this content violates their terms of service, right? Problem is, all of this content was completely legal and free to buy in the United States. None of it was illegal. Even the adult games, European Union tends to have more strict restrictions on content, but even like the games that were in the European Union were banned as well. And then MasterCard unexpectedly came out with a statement. I've never seen MasterCard do this before, because this is not the first time shit like this has happened. MasterCard came out with a statement like, oh, nah, this ain't true. It's bullshit, right? Essentially. And then Valve came back with another statement saying like, oh, actually, no, this is true. This is what happened and all this kind of stuff. So it's kind of like become this weird tit for tat thing. And then later on, itch.io relisted a bunch of the games for free or something, or like with alternative payment methods. But the issue is that Visa and MasterCard literally have a duopoly control over the entire Western hemisphere when it comes to payment processing. And what they dictate essentially goes, what you can and can't buy. And sometimes they go like well above the realm of their remit essentially and start acting as arbiters of morality and censorship and all that kind of stuff. And it's just bullshit. It's a chilling effect, you know. It should only be like elected governments that decide what content can and can't be viewed. And I don't remember electing Visa or MasterCard to be the global censorships. Global censors, broski.
Yeah. I mean, it's fucking pretty awful. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah. Slippery slope.
Because
and
they got all. I mean,
people,
nobody voted them into power, right?
No.
Like they aren't elected officials doing the will of their constituents. It's just, hey, we're a payment processor, and we reserve these rights for certain stuff, and we had people complain to us, and they don't really align. These things don't align with our morals, so take it down. And it's like, okay,
yeah.
but
And there's another layer to this. Because people have, I don't know how true this is. I haven't researched it that much myself, but people have pointed blame at a lobbying group called Collective Shout, which espouses to be a feminist organization, but really it's sort of like a pseudo-religious organization, which sort of, they claim they're all about, we need to protect the kids. The kids, think of the kids.
Isn't that what the whole UK thing is doing? Isn't this the whole
Yeah,
online thing? It's all to do to
yeah.
protect the kids.
Got to protect the kids, and it's that's what they say it's about, but really it's about them and their morals as, squeamish little adults who don't like video games. And it'll be this is the thing with all this shit, right? I don't play adult games, right? I don't care about adult games, whatever. As in, like, sexy games, hentai games, whatever. I don't play those games. But the thing is, it'll be hentai games today, and it'll be GTA 6 tomorrow. And they'll be coming out saying, like, you can't have dismemberment in games. And it'd be like, okay, Ninja Gaiden now, in Ninja Gaiden, there won't be any dismemberment or head cut or head executions. Now it's just going to be, when you kill someone with a ninja sword, it's going to be balloons fly out of them, and they just fall asleep. And there's little Z's popping up because they're not dead, they're just asleep. And then it won't be ninja swords, Rand. It won't be ninja swords. It'll just be foam objects that you hit them with, and they won't actually die. They'll just go to sleep on the floor. There'll be no gore. There'll be no violence. There'll be no political discourse. There'll be no art. There'll be no Kojima, bro. There'll be no Kojiming. It'll just be all.
But we need Kojima to Kojima.
Every game will be Fall Guys. From then on, every single game will be Fall Guys. They'll have no chat, and it'll be the most boring thing ever, and it'll kill the whole industry. So censorship absolutely can be a slippery slope, and I'm glad to see like people pushing back on it, because it is bullshit, man. It's huge amounts of bullshit.
Yes, very much so. Very, very much so. You definitely hate to see it.
I hate to see it, bro.
Chip GM, thank you for super chat. He says we should be worried about this as a consumer. Our games we like on consoles could be next. The new GTA could be next, or games like Cyberpunk that pushes boundaries of adult games. Yeah, so definitely something to be on the lookout for.
Speaking of games that push the envelope,
I
just want to briefly mention this. I played a game recently called Oxide 209, I think it's called, or something like that. Have you heard of this game, Rand?
I've not heard of it, no.
Hang on, let me find it. Okay, so it's called Oxide Room 208. And Microsoft actually wrote a preview article of this on their website. It came out a couple of weeks ago, I think. It's a horror game, and it's absolutely the kind of game that will get censored, I think, if we let these companies do it. Now, that being said, the game is absolutely awful. It's janky as hell. It's unpolished. It's like, I think it wants to be it's clearly a mixture between Silent Hill and Resident Evil, but it's also like gore for the sake of gore. It's kind of like, it reminds me of that movie Hostel, where it's like you've been kidnapped and there's an evil doctor doing weird experiments on people and this kind of shit, right? But it's absolutely terrible. The game starts off with you completely naked, bro.
Okay.
So it's like yeah, you're naked in this game. This game has nudity, by the way. Nudity by this game, you know. But it's pointless though. It's just there for like whatever weird reason, you know. So that's kind of an example of a game that won't exist. to slash. But even though the game's terrible and it just doesn't play well and the story's dumb, I'm glad that it exists. These dumb things need to exist because I'm an adult and I think adults should be allowed to create whatever they want to create as long as it's not inciting violence or hatred or anything of that nature against specific groups. If it's just dumb, you know, virtual porn or virtual violence, dismemberment or whatever, what is the issue, man? Just because some old people are like, this upsets me. It's like, bro, don't play it then. Don't put the disc in the drive. You control your actions.
You control the buttons you press.
You control the buttons you press, bro.
Yes. Anyways,
no, kid, no.
What we got? We got oh yeah, let's talk about Xbox Magnus, Jez.
This is going to be a short segment.
The next gen Xbox, powered by AMD chip, codename Magnus. Apparently, lot of talk about it recently, and I noticed no Windows Central article. There's articles from everybody, YouTube videos from people. This article here from WCCF Tech says Xbox Next Magnus APU will provide flexibility for scaling and an entire stack of systems that will likely compete more with pre-built PCs than the PlayStation 6. The Magnus APU, rumored to be powering the Xbox Next Generation system, will provide, with the unique design, a lot of flexibility that will allow Microsoft to scale an entire stack of systems that are more, to compete with pre-built PCs. In the latest episode of their weekly podcast, Digital Foundry went over the recently leaked Magnus APU, said to power the next generation Xbox, highlighting how different it is from the APUs powering the past and current generation PlayStations and Xbox consoles, not only in terms of size, but also in terms of design. Not only does this design featuring separate CPU and GPU dies steps away from the traditional monolithic design that balances power with costs, it will also be more powerful than anything we have seen so far, and supports a potential iterative approach to console design, giving Microsoft the ability to mix dies for more frequent upgrades than in traditional console cycles. This design could also be carried across multiple generations, falling in line with Phase's approach as opposed to the current generation's approach that Microsoft seems to be aiming for. It does look to the Magnus APU looks to be expensive. Accessibility would potentially also impact the PC gaming market. From AMD's point of view, being able to ship an entire Xbox PC with this condensed, likely cheaper design could be huge, allowing them to gain a bigger share of the market and provide a cheaper alternative to pre-built PCs, which are far from being affordable. As such, there's a real possibility that the concept of the console war between Sony and Microsoft will change forever, as the Xbox next generation systems will likely compete with pre-built gaming PCs rather than the PlayStation 6. Because there's a lot of back and forth about the PlayStation 6 leaks and the Xbox Magnus leaks, with Magnus being more powerful, I guess. The tech stuff always goes over my head. So, this information's out there. I think Moore's Law is Dead put it out there. And everybody's kind of talking about like Digital Foundry doing their analysis of it. But like I said, I noticed that Windows Central didn't say anything about this. No articles. That would have been easy traffic for you guys. What's going on?
I mean, honestly, we probably should have covered it, but usually with hardware stuff, I like to do a bit of research and then add more information to it, because I think anyone can. It's easy to reblog stuff, but since everyone had already covered it, I don't know if was I think I might have been on vacation when that was going down, but I wanted to research and like add some of my own information to it if I was going to cover it all. And I am still researching what the next Xbox is going to look like. But if you notice, like when I do report my own reporting, generally speaking, it's because I've got something to add, at the very least, right? I like to do that. But right now I don't have anything to add. I don't. First of all, the main thing I checked first of all was like, does Magnus appear in Xbox's any of Xbox's systems? So there's no mention of Magnus on any document or code name or anything that I've seen. But this is supposedly an AMD code name. So Microsoft probably working with this under a different code name. And Microsoft's also completely changed its approach to code names. So every single part of a team that's working on the device will have a different code name. And they do this to try and track down leaks. So it's like, you probably won't see, from a responsible leaker at least, you probably won't see code names as much anymore from Xbox because there's so many different code names flying around for different devices. That's why like the whole thing about Canon was weird, because it was like, wait, is this the device? Is this the project? And it's like, it's actually one of the code names that one of the teams maybe had about the Xbox Ally, right? When I did all that reporting. So yeah, Magnus, I couldn't find that anywhere. So if that's highly unlikely to be an Xbox code name. But all I can do at this moment is take the report at face value, which is pretty much what everyone else is doing, right? And I think Moore's Law is Dead is a reputable leaker of AMD stuff, right? So he's right in the past. He's not someone who makes stuff up for clicks, right, Rand? Because I'm not that familiar with the guy.
I don't really follow Moore's Law's Dead very much. I don't know about his track record, so I couldn't tell you. And like I said, the tech stuff's over my head. Like I don't really know what I mean. I've seen them talk about, oh, this would be 4K 120 on every game, and that's the standard would be for there, or it's like most resembling equivalent would be a 5080 or something.
Yeah. So honestly, a lot when you start talking about die sizes and all that kind of stuff, like that goes over my head. It's like a big blind spot in my knowledge about tech. Like some of my sources will speak to me and say, oh my god, it's got this transistor, these many transistors. I'm like, I'm sorry, dude, that doesn't mean anything to me. Something I need to learn, right? So I tend to come at it from a consumer's perspective because, to be quite honest with you, most people don't really know about all that kind of stuff that goes into how chips work. They just want it to work, especially with regards to consoles, right? So when you say to me it's got the same performance of a 4080, my interest there would be like
5080 is what people say.
5080, sorry.
I don't know.
I was thinking about 48 because I've got a 48. But when people say it's going to be comparable to 5080, I want to translate that to like, what does that actually look like for the end user, right? Because at the end of the day, devs are going to use the system however they want. The new Ninja Gaiden, for example, goes up to 120 frames per second on the Xbox Series X, but it's probably not going to have ray tracing and all the shiny bits and bobs that a 30 FPS quality mode on Cyberpunk would have, right? Not that kind of fidelity. So right now, I have no idea if the rumors about how powerful it is are true. Obviously, a big aspect of interest for me is like price point, right? Because at the end of the day, if this is going to be comparable to a pre-built PC, is it going to be comparable to a pre-built PC's price range? Because if you're buying a pre-built 5080 machine, that's not cheap, bro. That is not a cheap device, right? But then again, because it's a console, because it's going to be Xbox ecosystem first, presumably there's going to be some level of subsidies here, because even though it's going to open up to Steam, it's still going to be Xbox first. And I think the vast majority of people who do get this are still going to be using Xbox first as their main storefront, right? So you have to sort of imagine that Microsoft maybe will take some of the shoulder some of the costs here, you know, because they're benefiting from the ecosystem. And then you kind of start asking other questions like, well, is this designed for OEMs to be able to take advantage of it? Because we've already got OEM Xboxes on the way. Yeah, they don't run Xbox games today, but I think in AMD's recent presentation to shareholders, they were talking about the Xbox APU is going to be designed for PCs, consoles, and handhelds, plural, right? Which sort of triggers the imagination, right? It's like, okay, well, if we're talking plural, then that probably does mean we're going to get OEM devices, maybe regional devices too. Like, there's a lot of regions Xbox just doesn't exist in because for whatever reason, legal wise, supply chain wise, not having the right connections, not having the right distribution, they just don't exist. But in a universe where a local manufacturer could make their own Xbox, that kind of expands the Xbox ecosystem and makes it more interesting to game developers as well. Because this is all going to be the whole point of doing this, in my mind, Rand, is to build the footprint of Xbox's ecosystem. You know, they're not doing this for the fans, are they? If they were doing a console for the fans, for Xbox fans as they exist today, they'd just make another cheap box that was more powerful than the Series X, traditional kind of thing, do it exactly as usual, right? To me, if they're changing things up and they're doubling down on Windows, they're opening it up to not just to other storefronts, but also OEMs, Rand. Does that not suggest a grander plan for like trying to make this a bigger deal? Because I don't think you go to all this effort if you're not trying to sell this thing to a huge amount of people and ultimately grow your footprint, your ecosystem footprint. I'm off base there, Rand.
No, I don't think so. I don't think you are. Do you think you are?
No, I think I'm perfectly on the money. So
it'd be interesting when all this really kind of comes out. Like, I think both me and you are the opinion that the Xbox console, Magnus or whatever the hell it is, or whatever the Xbox code name will be, is probably a 2027 device. I know I've heard people speculate that there might be an OEM console next year. What do you think about that? About the idea of a OEM console releasing in 2026?
Was it Colt who said that? Colt Eastwood?
I know Colt's talked about it, but I'm not sure the rumor originates with Colt, though.
So I'll say this: I've heard similar to whoever said that first. I don't know if it was Colt. Colt was the first person that I saw put that publicly, and I was like, "Oh, I've heard that as well." But I've heard that there could be. Oh, actually, wasn't it Dr. Windows? I think who said that. Dr. Windows, I think, is a German Windows tech site. I think. Kind of like the German Windows Central. I think they put out there that there was going to be an OEM Xbox next year. I think they did. I heard similar, basically, that there might be an Xbox branded pre-built PC next year, basically. I don't think it'll run the Xbox ecosystem because I don't think those chips are going to be ready by then. But I think like we see an Xbox, a sort of console-sized pre-built PC that runs, you know, PC games, and maybe comes with Game Pass, something like that, but with Xbox branding. I think that's what maybe you see next year. Similar to the Xbox Ally, not a real Xbox, but actually a PC kind of thing, right? So I've heard that too. Don't know for certain yet. It tends to be that when I know for certain, I'll put it up on Windows Central first. But when it's like something I'm still trying to get sources on, it's something I'll discuss on the podcast. So yeah, that is something I've heard. But we'll see if it's true or not.
Seems
later on.
I don't know. Seems odd to me. Like, I get the even with like them not doing their own handheld, I get the idea of doing an OEM one, being in the space, gathering data, all that sort of stuff, right? Making Windows 11 better, okay. But
Xbox Play Anywhere, man. I can't believe that Ready or Not returned to Play Anywhere.
Sure.
I don't think I've seen that before.
But when I sit there and I think of, let's say, 2026, and I think of, all right, well, there is a console that's going to be released, but it's from an OEM, so it's from Acer, it's from Logitech, it's from Razer, who knows, right? Just an OEM console that's basically a PC. And then I think of like, okay, well, how much would that cost? How powerful is it going to be? Or, what does that look like? But then I also think like, all right, well, but Xbox is going to put out their own the following year. And I look at that like, well, as much as I would have wanted like a mid-gen upgrade this gen, like how the PS5, they did a PS5 Pro. And I talked about that since there were rumors of it. Like, I want an Xbox to do a new one because, like, I play all the time on Xbox. I would gladly take an upgrade. And it would seem like if you're just going off the thought of this being like, okay, this is a better Series X because we're so much further along and this runs stuff better. But it's like, but then the actual one from Xbox comes out the following year. Like, I'm not in the market for that one. Like, I'm not in the market for a gaming handheld, period. Gaming PC handheld at all. But I am in the market for potentially a better Xbox-branded device. Preferably from Xbox themselves. Right? The Series X is now 5 years old. Parts are from like 2019 or whatever, so it's even older. I still think it's a really great device. But it's showing its age, right? With certain games. It's like, okay, I'm in the market for something better. And like, okay, here we come, 2026. And I get it maybe from the sense of like maybe an OEM would feel emboldened by it being an anniversary year for the Xbox brand, 25th anniversary. You got Fable.
That's probably what it's gonna
You
be.
have Halo. You have Forza Horizon. You have Gears and Modern Warfare 4 and what other games would be coming out. Grand Theft Auto, right? That I would be interested in that device. But then I think, but Xbox's device is coming next year. So why would I get that device? Like, I don't.
That's the thing. It's like it'd be a PC, and I suppose it'd just be for a different market. But I think as well, like companies that are hardware companies, hardware first, their entire business model revolves around thin margins, low stock, just doing mini projects here and there. It's not the same approach as a PlayStation or a Nintendo or whatever. They're never thinking mass market,
sure,
man.
But
Like, how many gaming laptops
I'm
do you think
saying
I sell?
like I am the direct person they are targeting with said device.
I don't think you are,
No,
because it doesn't run Xbox games.
Well, okay, well then that would be if it was just if it doesn't run Xbox games and it's just a gaming PC handheld but in a console form and all it plays is Play Anywhere, then probably not.
It's gonna be. I would imagine it's a PC for your TV, with the new Xbox, the new Windows features that make it more of a gaming device with the multitasking and all that bullshit, right?
Okay, well then I'd be less interested in it. But
yeah, I don't think you'd be interested in it at all.
No,
I think this would genuinely be more for Steam gamers who want something away from their desk and something more casual for the PC. I presume it wouldn't be as powerful. I presume it'd be more affordable, and I presume it'd have all the Windows multitasking bullshit that makes it easier to use with a controller. I think that's really what it's for. It's going to be a casual kind of PC kind of experience, I think.
I mean, all right. I mean, if that's what it is, that's what it is. But I guess we'll see. It may not even happen. There may not even be anything. Because I could see a thing where it's like, all right, we're announcing the next actual Xbox from Xbox 2027. Here's what it looks like. But then also, here's an OEM Xbox at the same time that's actually coming out this year. I could, if you're like, that's, I guess, maybe one of the issues if you run these Xbox branded devices. And then it's like, here's this ROG Ally X, but here's this also OEM console. And then next year, here's the actual console from Xbox. And then who knows what other OEM stuff's doing. It's like, which ones play
Yeah.
which. Does this one play the full library? Does that one play the full library? This one does. At least I know, like, you didn't have those questions with the Series S and X, and even then, people were making arguments that people were going to get confused about the Series S and Series X because, oh my God, it's the Xbox One S, Xbox Series S. Oh my God, Grandma's not going to know which one to get for Timmy, right?
Why is he always called Timmy?
I'm just saying. But
Every time
you
it's
remember the talks about the naming
Oh, yeah, I
convention confusing certain customers. And I guess it's also one of those things where it's like, well, if you go to like, is the like, you go to like Best Buy and you look in the gaming section, would that even be there or what have you, to even have that problem? But I guess that's
I suppose for Microsoft, it's like the people who would really ask those questions, they would do their research. But the people who don't ask those questions are the people who are going to get it to play games that they know are available, i.e. Fortnite, Roblox, wherever else is available in the Microsoft Store. Because that's like, the Microsoft Store does have pretty much all of the most played games, the sort of casual kind of everything games. It's got Call of Duty, it's got all the EA games, all that kind of stuff. It has all those games. It's just like the wider ecosystem of single player games that it tends to miss out on the Microsoft Store, and even then it's like it's getting gradually better all the time. Like maybe by next year, like it's even better then. And where it's like all the modern single player games start coming out to the Microsoft Store as well, as Microsoft gradually tries to move developers into that ecosystem ahead of Microsoft going all in with PC development as the flagship option there. But I mean, but that's the thing. Like, if let's imagine this is a ROG Ally desktop, right, or a ROG Ally Xbox TV edition or something like that. They ain't gonna manufacture many units. I'm thinking like maybe a couple 100,000, and that's it. I think this would just be like another one of them. This is another little thing that Asus wanted to do, and they can accept the lower margins because that's their entire business and their mission, and they're fine with it. I think we don't need to overthink it. Like these are clearly not mass market devices.
all right. So
And two player 8654 just said Ubisoft added their games this week too to the Windows Store. See, I didn't even know that.
have they?
I didn't even know that. I'm gonna go and have a look right now.
Go have a look. But Jez, what about this? This is a bit of PlayStation news. PlayStation was behind Helldivers 2 coming to Xbox. I know because there's a little bit of like thought of like, oh, Arrowhead's behind it, or Xbox was the one begging for it.
Yeah, there was a lot of copium there, about like, oh, that they had to do it. It was in the contract, the original contract for Helldivers 2 and all this kind of stuff. But it was just like the Helldivers CEO was like, yeah, PlayStation was all in on this, and it's like, of course they are, because they know it's going to sell. It's going to over-index on Xbox. The thing about Xbox, I genuinely think this, Rand. I think Xbox has an above-average attach rate. Because I think when I look at the Switch and the PlayStation 5, they've got like that mass casual audience. A lot of people who don't even monetize, like people playing Fortnite and whatever, who don't even buy microtransactions. Like they've captured that audience. But the people left on Xbox are the sort of the hardest of the core variety console gamers. So they're probably like more inclined to buy games on average at a higher rate, I would think, via attach rates. And then like you multiply that by the fact Helldivers definitely has a sort of Halo-ish kind of motif, shall we say. And then you multiply that further by Xbox being the shooter box, quote unquote, even amongst people who aren't really that into Halo. And I think you have a clear recipe for success there. And I'll tell you other games that I think make a lot of sense, especially in the wake of Forza Motorsport dying. Gran Turismo, man. I think you put Xbox has been pretty much the flagship racer box as well for a long time. So I think like you put Gran Turismo there from PlayStation. I think that's a no-brainer as well. I think that over-indexes too. A lot of these games just make sense. I mean, you look at spreadsheets and stuff. The only people who get mad and upset about this and triggered are like console warriors, fanboys, YouTubers who have built their channel on PlayStation winning. You know, a lot of people built entire careers on this kind of drama and bullshit, right? So they're the people upset by it. Sony's literally just looking at the spreadsheets. They're looking at the data Microsoft probably submitted and was like, well, actually, they don't even need to submit it. They published MLB The Show there, you know. So they know from MLB The Show's usage stats how well games can sell on Xbox, what the attach rate looks like, all that kind of stuff. They've got the data. So they looked at the data and was like, yep, this makes complete and total sense. The only reason to not do this is ideological. And it does feel like PlayStation's entering a post-ideological phase in its life. You know? Putting their grown-up big boy pants on and being like, yeah, okay, we need to stop being ideological about this and start looking at the margins, because that's what the shareholders are constantly pissed off about. You know? For better or worse. I'm not saying listening to shareholders is a good thing. I'm just saying this is probably what's going on, right? But we'll see how it all goes, man. Maybe Helldivers is the only one that comes, Rand. Maybe all we get in is Helldivers a marathon, like someone emailed me this week. Someone emailed me.
Someone
was like,
emailed you?
Helldivers? Yeah, someone emailed me because I wrote an article about what that woman said about PlayStation ditching hardware centricity. And someone sent me an email like, oh, you fanboys, all you're getting is marathon and all you're getting is Helldivers. Deal with it, bro. You know? And it's just like, mate, I don't have to deal with it because Xbox is getting everything when it gets Steam. You know?
It's weird because the whole point was we weren't supposed to get any of it. You know, like we said, that the goalpost is already... The goalpost to move to like, all you're getting is live service games. But at one point it was, we weren't supposed to get any of it. And now... Yeah, Helldivers is okay. Well, that's one, and that's like, well, that's all you're getting. That and Marathon, which, you know, I think I saw the Bungie thing where they're basically being absorbed by PlayStation now, or like their independence is lighter because you know, they fucked up on it. Like Bungie fucked up. Like seriously, like Bungie's leadership and everything. So they're getting basically absorbed into PlayStation, and then PlayStation posted their quarterly results, which were all super positive for them. 80 million consoles, profit margins up 117% or something. Everything was up, Jez. Every metric for them was up and not down. Because you said stuff was going to be down, but it was all up.
What? When did I say it was going to be down?
You always say every single month. You're like, oh, PlayStation will be down too. Everyone's going to be down. And then everyone's up. Everyone's up.
When?
You said
I never said they'd be down.
You said that, bro.
I literally did not say that.
So they're doing
good.
Their
hardware sales might be down.
Well, their hardware sales were up.
Yeah, but I think PlayStation themselves said that. They advised investors.
But I mean, hey, their profit margin. Their profit margin was up 100%, which is that's pretty good for them. I think they paid off the Bungie acquisition in full, so that's like completely paid off. But there were some quotes made by I don't know if it was the CFO or the CEO or whatever, and they talked about moving away from a hardware-centric business. Yes. Now, this has gotten a lot of people, well, I mean, speculating wildly about what it could mean. Xbox fans are out here being like, full slate coming to Xbox, all the PlayStation games. You know, because, I mean, this isn't the first time also that PlayStation has said their metric to use for success is monthly active users, where before it was console sales, which is something that, like, Phil had said years and years ago, where he said, hey, the metric for success in the industry is monthly active users and not console sales. And everybody called Phil a fucking moron and said that you're only saying that because you can't sell consoles. Well, here's PlayStation, who basically their sales are on par with the PS4 at the same time frame if you adjust it for launch. And the PS5 is more expensive than the PS4 at launch. Both like that and the PS5 Pro. Way more expensive than the PS4 and the PS4 Pro. So the fact that they're still, I think they're within 2 million of it, or maybe it's right around there, and being more expensive, especially in today's, economic stuff, is I think pretty damn good for them. I'm sure they're very happy with that. But what?
No, but Rand, I don't think they are happy with that, bro. I don't think you're not a publicly traded business to sell the same amount.
Yeah, but to sell the same amount but make more money though.
Yeah, exactly. How are they making more money?
Because the games are more expensive, the consoles are more expensive, the accessories are more expensive, the subscriptions are more expensive.
But their costs are more. Their costs are higher too. Their supply chains are more expensive too. But how are they making more money?
I mean,
how is the industry making more money right now?
Well, I don't know about the industry. I'm just talking about PlayStation.
But this is relevant to PlayStation too. Everyone's over monetizing the existing audience.
Sure.
There's more battle passes than ever. There's more microtransactions than ever. And PlayStation's also started putting its games on PC.
Well, I wouldn't say they started to. They've been doing that since 2020. But yeah.
Yeah, but my point is, like, how do you make more money when you're selling the same amount of consoles?
Find new audiences, essentially.
Find new audiences and extract more money from your existing audience. So, like, this is why they're saying it's not a hardware-centric business anymore. Because if it was, they wouldn't be making more money. The way, if you've got the same addressable audience, and by the hardware sales speed, they have got the same addressable audience. If it's selling as much as the PS4 sold, that's they're selling to the same audience, right? They're monetizing that audience more aggressively than they did in the past. And this is also like how Microsoft's making more money, obviously. They're monetizing their audience more aggressively than they did in the past. They acquired the biggest games that were on their platform, i.e. Call of Duty, Minecraft, etc. And they just moved towards software centricity more aggressively than PlayStation did. But this is the existential crisis the industry is in. If the console industry was growing, PlayStation 5 would be selling more than the PS4. And I don't care that it's more expensive, because everything's more expensive. But wages have gone up, purchasing power is higher. Well, actually, no, purchasing power isn't higher, but PlayStation costs have gone up. It costs them more to make the PS5. It would have cost them more to make the PS4 as well. Everything's gone up post-pandemic because of inflation too. There's all that kind of bullshit. So again, it's like the question we had earlier about Phil being a genius. It's not Phil being a genius. It's just the math. It's just the Excel spreadsheet telling you what you need to do in order to grow your publicly traded business, where shareholders demand XYZ amounts of margin, and grow in the business in a universe where you're selling exactly the same amount of consoles as you did last gen.
Right. Well, the quote is that he says, in the gaming business, we are moving away from a hardware-centric business model more to a platform business that expands the community and increases engagement. I think there's some other stuff he kind of said here, because he talks about creation. So he says, the investment in Bandai, because they invested a lot in Bandai, he says...
talking a lot about IP creation and anime and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because he's
creating big franchises.
Yeah, so now as we make a transition in entertainment creation, the stability and the productivity, our performance is increasing. So this upward revision might not have been a direct result of these. So they talk about that stuff. But I guess it depends on where you fall on this one, because there definitely seems to be a couple camps out there where obviously some Xbox fans believe this is like a clear sign of the future. The job listing, Helldivers coming to Xbox, these statements here potentially all point to this future where, I mean, let's be honest, PlayStation's already multi-platform. They already put all their games on PC anyways, and they don't own Steam. So, like, they're a multi-platform publisher. The difference is, like, they don't put anything on other consoles until now, right? So those people in that camp are like, this is a signal from PlayStation that this is the future that they're moving in, and that they'll put more games not only on PC, probably even closer to day and date, but also they're going to explore putting certain select games potentially on Nintendo Switch and Xbox to make more money, to find the other audience, find more audience and such that. But then there are some people in the other camp, because right now there's a lot of like infighting. I've been told that there's a lot of fighting in between PlayStation fans, because PlayStation fans are some PlayStation fans are seeing this as basically their canary in the coal mine situation. They're basically, this is their Tim Stewart. Remember, because before Microsoft,
this is their Project Latitude.
Well, yeah, remember before Phil and them did the business update where they said it's just these games, it's not, and they basically kind of, I don't want to say lie through their teeth, but they kind of did a little bit there, right? A lot of the things they said in that business update ended up not being true, but Tim Stewart basically said at I forget, like some investment thing where he pretty much said, yeah, we're I forget exactly what he said, but he basically said like, yeah, we're going to be bringing games elsewhere. And Xbox fans were in denial, right? Complete denial. I think you were in denial. I was in denial. Everybody was in denial. Even though I was hearing rumors about Xbox games going elsewhere at the time, I was like, no way this happens. No way. Because Tim Stewart had said something similar previously with the Bethesda acquisition about, oh, the games will be first, better, and best. First, better, or best on Xbox. And that's not how that stuff ended up. It was like the stuff was exclusive. So I was like, oh, Phil, Tim Stewart's talking out of his ass like he did before, right? Well, not so much this time. And everything did go exclusive. So now you see Sony kind of saying similar things. So you have some PlayStation fans who are like, this is their Tim Stewart moment. And it's like, this is happening. You have the job listing. You have Nixus working on Helldivers 2. What other games could come? I even saw Sean Layden, former bigwig over at PlayStation, reply to a tweet that had these quotes, these quotes from this Sony investor meeting, and he replied with a gif of Kratos basically face palming. So, he obviously doesn't like that direction. But then you have other people being like, "Oh, it doesn't actually mean what it says. It means something else. It means about creating, bringing your IP to like the entertainment side of it and making more movies and TV shows, so you can grab more of that audience and bring them in here and blah 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 blah." So it's like, the question then becomes like, where do you fall in on this side of the debate? Is Sony signaling their shift in business plan of putting more games in more places, or is this something completely different? And isn't as right, because either you're like, it's full slate, baby, or you're just like, oh, there'll be some games here and there. No, it's not any of that, and this has nothing to do with any of that stuff. It's this I create IP thing with movies, TV shows, and all this sort of stuff. It all depends. So, like, where do you think we're sitting in here on this? Is this Sony signaling a new direction?
Slate.
Oh yeah, okay.
Whole slate, baby. We're gonna get God of War on Xbox, and not only that, you're gonna get Kratos with a Master Chief skin.
Ooh, that'd be good. That'd be good.
Mjolnir armor, rocking out there.
I'd like that.
And instead of his axe, he's got a laser sword kind of thing. What was it called in Halo? Can't remember. I don't know. But anyways, no, I don't think it's going to be a whole slate. Although I hope someone clips that and it upsets everyone. I don't think it's going to be the whole slate. I think it's going to be the games that they know will over-index. I think it's going to be games like Helldivers. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Gran Turismo, because I think that over-indexes on Xbox. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Spider-Man, honestly.
Ooh.
Because I think that, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, because it's like, well, Disney charged us a shitload of money for this IP. We might as well maximize the margins as much as possible.
Okay.
But I do, because one of the things that we always said about Xbox was they'll keep the iconic stuff exclusive. Halo, Gears, whatever. I actually do think I can see PlayStation keeping God of War Last of Us, stuff like that. I can see them keeping that fully exclusive, even though I don't think for a second it would hurt. I don't think for a second it would hurt PlayStation to move that across, right? But I do think like I don't think they're ready for that. I don't think their body's ready for that. That level of commitment to the multi-platform universe.
Well, I mean,
But at the same time,
to be fair, when
Go
Xbox
on.
adopts something, they adopt it wholeheartedly. Like when they adopted
all in,
PC
man.
stuff, they went PC day one with everything, and it was like right there. Like remember, because Quantum Break was like, all right, they waited a bit, and then it was like, okay, it's here. It started with Gears 4. Like once Gears 4 went day one on Windows PC, then it was like everything's day one. Sony's kind of just been that whole like dip your toe in it to the water, see it if it's the right temperature, and they're taking their time, right, with their duration. Like, oh, it's 4 years, oh, it's 3 years, oh, it's 2 years, and now Spider-Man 2's 1 year, just like Stellar Blade. So, and we can only assume it's going to get shorter. Like that time frame's just they're going to be like, why are we waiting a year? Right? We're losing that marketing push, because realistically everything should just be in day and date. You'd make the most money, the game would sell the most, you'd have the combined marketing efforts of both the PlayStation version and the PC version, you'd have the zeitgeist, all that stuff. Like the success of the success of the game on the one platform will push the success of the other game on the other platform, and vice versa, right? So it's like they're still like, oh, we need to protect a little bit of the console business, but that window gap is moving. Xbox was like, we're doing it day one. There's no waiting. With the multi-platform stuff, here's 4 games at once, and then here's more games, and they're announcing games throughout the year, so they've embraced it. And you could assume that stuff like next year, like Forza Horizon 6 or Gears E-Day and Fable are probably all going to be day one multi-platform, depending on if it's also going to be going to the Switch 2 as well as the PlayStation. So they're like, yeah, it was, I guess you could say it was slower than their PC adoption, but it was like, all right, we're doing this. Here's 4 games, and then here's more games. PlayStation, it definitely seems like they're slower, to do stuff like that. So it's like, well, with the PC, yeah, just 1 game, but it's 4 months or it's 4 years. So I don't expect it to be. I expect them to do it slowly over time. I don't really think, like you, I don't think it'll be whole slate.
But a part of that for me, Rand, is like pipeline. I don't think some of it's ideologically like we're gonna wait a year before we port this. I think part of it's just like, well, we don't have a pipeline to port this.
Well, yeah, because Nixis is doing it, right? So there's like, well, maybe they don't have the capacity to do simultaneous development to release the games at the same time on both platforms. Maybe that's a factor. But you look at like this, like I expect more PlayStation games to come. I mean, Nate the Hate's already said so. The question is like, what is it? So it's like, yeah, Helldivers 2, probably going to sell very well. Lego Horizon, I think, is going to come. And then after that,
whole slate.
It really depends. Is it just going to be stuff like Fair Games, if that game ever actually releases, and Marathon and the live service stuff? Or are you actually going to delve into some of those? Like, hey, Uncharted Collection's not selling anything anymore. Sell it on Xbox and Switch. Why not? Horizon 1, bring it to another audience. It's coming to, it's a movie. I think it's a movie at Netflix now, or maybe it's a TV show. I forget. But there's something Netflix. There's something Horizon movie, TV show related coming in the future. You can put that on other platforms if you want. Because there is like an MMO live service thing coming. So I think the idea, like, to me, the idea of Sony doing, like, let's imagine, for example, Wolverine. I don't see a scenario where that comes to Xbox. Number one, really at all, but definitely not like day one, or definitely not even a year or two. Like, I guess the thing is, I just need to see. I want to see how this whole thing progresses. Like, if suddenly,
I'm curious how. I mean, obviously there's not fan bases are not monolithic, right? Everyone's going to have a different opinion. But I'm curious, like, how PlayStation fans in general would feel about some of those games that haven't been, that have been out for years, like Last of Us Remastered.
They'd hate it.
For example.
I'm telling you, a lot of them would hate it. They've
A
built
lot of them would, yeah. But I just mean, like, maybe the wider audience. Like, if that game is not selling anything on PC or PlayStation, what's the logic in not bringing it to Xbox and making a bit of money to fund the next game? What is really the logic there? Because if I weren't going to switch to PlayStation for Last of Us the first time round, I sure as hell not switching for it 10 million years later. You know? There's no real logic, business or otherwise, about that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure if you ask somebody somebody at PlayStation about it, they could come up with an excuse, or with not necessarily excuse, but a reason for why it makes sense not to do that or something.
There might be perfect reasons, but I would dispute that.
See, I want to see like how in depth this is, right? Like if it's just the multi-platforms, if it's just the live service stuff, who really cares at the end of the day? It'll hurt people for sure, and whatever. But to me, it'll mean something else if it's Spider-Man, if it's God of War, if it's Uncharted, if it's Horizon. I think I already said Horizon. Right, like if it's like one of those games, because there are people out there staking their claim and their reputation on like Sony's not doing any single player games to Xbox. But then a few years ago it was Sony's never bringing a game to PC, and we've seen how that happened and what's gone down there. And not that long ago, Sony's never going to do what Xbox is doing and put games on Xbox, and we've seen how that has gone so far. So like the whole thing is never say never, I guess. So there are people like to pretend that they know stuff. So we'll see how this goes. Like, I don't think it's going to be fast.
Can you put a poll up in chat? What they think is going to happen?
My chat is
just going to be
completely broken.
Just refresh, bro.
I haven't. It's completely broken. I can't.
Still broken.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is why you use Microsoft Edge, man.
I am using Microsoft Edge.
For me. Oh, I mean, I don't know. That's weird. Don't you have like a 5090?
Yeah, I do. But the YouTube
you got
chat,
hardware acceleration turned on?
YouTube chat just completely breaks.
Weird.
Like YouTube itself
is
fine.
For me, but I just refresh and then it works.
But YouTube chat just breaks.
Damn.
I don't know. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Well, I'm checking the chat for you. It's dumb that moderators can't make polls. Like, why can't I make a poll and moderate, for God's sake?
Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, we'll see how this PlayStation stuff moves. Because I saw like a website, I think it was PlayStation Lifestyle. It's like, no, this doesn't mean PlayStation's going multi-platform. Like they're really pushing against the idea of all this. And it's like, well, PlayStation's already multi-platform. Hate to tell you. Like they put all their games on Steam. They're multi-platform. Like Xbox has been multi-platform since 2016. It is what it is. But it's just like, well, this is about Xbox. These quotes don't mean they're coming to Xbox. It's like, well, Helldivers 2 is. Like I said, seeing is believing for a lot of people. So right now you can sit there and deny it all you want and say, hey, the quotes don't mean what they mean, and it only really means this. But seeing is believing. They see that Spider-Man hit, or they see that Horizon come. People will be changing their tune real quickly. And then it'll be like PC was, where it's like, well, you guys won't get stuff day one and you'll have to wait a couple years. It's like, well, you see how we went from it'll never happen to now it's just like, it'll happen in 2 years? It's like, okay, all right. But we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the people who are left on Xbox are like hardcore. I said that last week. They're the people who've endured and are happy with what they've got. And yeah, they criticize the platform, but they're people who passionate about their libraries, and it's just they're fine with what's going on, right? So I feel like at the end of the day, those are the users that Sony just couldn't get, no matter what. There's nothing Sony can do to get those users. I personally believe. So why not monetize them, man? You know, why not monetize them? And it worked the other way as well. You know, Microsoft started putting its games on Xbox, and lo and behold, last shareholder meeting, Satya's there again saying we've seen record playtime hours on console. You know, and I know the hardware's not selling amazingly well, so like it's not exactly like they're finding new users, but the users they've got are playing more than ever. And I suppose part of that's Game Pass, driving people to try new things. But I think, like, let me ask you this, Rand, because I've been thinking about this myself, right? Back and forwards late at night while I can't sleep. Do you think when Microsoft starts reporting its hardware figures in the future, do they report the Xbox Ally and the OEM figures as their hardware figures? Because they do that for Windows.
I don't know.
Because they could be like, oh, our hardware grew 1,000% because now we've got like a Razer Xbox, an Acer Xbox, a Asus Xbox, and a Dell Xbox, an Alienware Dell Xbox. And then they say, like, this is our Xbox OEM business. Because the thing you have to remember is the person who runs Xbox hardware now used to run Windows hardware, the Windows OEM business, which is making Windows a business with third-party hardware manufacturers. You know, which has been monstrously successful, and I think has turned more people into billionaires than any other company on earth. So can we make clickbait videos around in the future where it's like Xbox hardware increased by 1,000% year over year? Can we do it? Will we be able to do that, Ron?
I mean, you might be able to if people buy the Xbox Ally X and all the OEM stuff, and they actually count it as their own hardware. But will they?
But
though?
it's like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's fun to think about.
I don't know.
I just sometimes I just think about things that would be fun for discourse and drama and people being mad. You can't count that hardware. It's not real Xbox hardware. It's OEM Xbox hardware.
That
It's
is
like, well,
true.
yeah, but can I play Xbox games on it? Can I? Seems like Xbox hardware to me, bro.
We do got a member chat here from Maker of Chaos, who says, excited to go to Gamescom in 2 weeks. It'll be my first time going, so not sure what to expect. Hope to see some fellow gamers at the Xbox booth, all playing Hollow Knight Silksong, which I did see Hollow Knight Silksong is also playable at the Nintendo Switch booth.
Oh, snap.
So it's going to be
Xbox
playable at
doesn't
Xbox
have marketing
and
confirmed.
Nintendo Switch. So, baby, that game's coming out this fall, yeah? We'll probably get the announcement at Jeff Keighley's Gamescom show, right? I would imagine.
Bro, what if it's terrible?
Who? Don't put that out in there in the universe, bro. I
What
don't
if
know
it's
if
like
people can
4 hours
survive Silksong being terrible. I don't think they could. But
I'm very, very much looking forward to that. I'm gonna play that shit, bro, at Gamescom, and I'm gonna bring you guys all the juicy details about Silksong and how it's gonna be Game of the Year.
yeah. I also want to say, thank you guys for hanging out with us. We appreciate everybody here, everybody listening to this later, whether it's on YouTube or iTunes or Spotify. Make sure to check out our sponsor for this episode. We have Surfshark, protecting your internet data and all that good stuff that governments want from you. So
Your hentai
secure
games.
that with Surfshark VPN. Got 86% off, 2 years. Links in the comment as well as in the description. And Patreon time, Jez. We got Patreon questions. We got quite a few of them here, so we're gonna jump over there, get some good old Patreon questions from the crew. If you too can join our Patreon at patreon.com/XB2. Go ahead, Jez. What were you saying?
I just wanted to give Paris a shout out in
Mr.
chat.
Paris.
I didn't realize it was Paris because for some reason my chat on YouTube is showing people's usernames.
Yes,
not
it does.
their
It does
channel names.
mine as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. Scarcely relevant with 1 gift membership there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Scarcely relevant. But yeah, shout out to Paris and shout out to everyone who's in.
Paris
chat,
is
really.
going to be at Gamescom.
Yes, he is, and I am going to meet with Paris very many times, hopefully. But I've got the most stacked schedule I've ever had in my life, so maybe I won't even have time.
You won't have time to hang out with
Paris,
Paris? Interesting.
Look for a very stressed out, overweight guy with a beard. Actually, there's probably going to be a lot of those.
There's probably going to be millions of them there.
Okay, look out for a stressed overweight guy with a terrible West Midlands accent. I don't think there's going to be many.
There'll be a few of those there.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
We got. It's quite small, but smells like a big one. Says, "Oi mates, really liked your interview with Colin. Anyways, Rand, I've got the perfect game for you to try once you get a webcam, and it's all something to get your feet wet PC gaming. Before your eyes. Not to spoil the premise, but every time you blink, the time moves forward. You can't stay within a memory. It always moves forward to the end. Cheers, and have a great weekend." And question, is Fable safe? Ooh. Is Fable safe?
Ooh.
I mean,
the $1 million question, bro.
If they cancel Fable,
it'd be a disaster, wouldn't it?
yeah. Fable's the one that always had the most potential. Also got a huge budget. Also being worked at a studio that a lot of people consider one of the best studios in gaming, with Playground and Forza Horizon and stuff. So
they've never made an RPG.
Sure, they never have made an RPG, but
even an action game with a story.
No, but they all hired people who have. So I'm just saying, like, it would definitely signal not very good things for Xbox if they had to cancel Fable. And granted, Fable's been in development for quite some time, just like Perfect Dark and all those other ones. So I think they believe in this one more than they believed in those other ones. I mean, it's like you go back and look at the 2020 or 2019, 2021 games that you're in 2025 that we're waiting on. It was like, we called them the Elusive Six or whatever.
Yeah, something like that.
Like, well, 3 of them ended up getting canceled.
Oh shit!
Right, State of Decay 3 still nowhere to be seen. Fable, like, we're still waiting on it. Might come next year. Might be 2027 if you believe Special Nick. The only one that's released is Avowed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I could see a scenario where Fable gets delayed if Grand Theft Auto moves to the fall, and they have to move it because they don't want it to go up against Grand Theft Auto. I could see that happening. Because you're moving. Doesn't matter what game you are, you're gonna move. But
what if you Fortnite 2? Does Fortnite 2 move for Grand Theft Auto?
They might. Did you see the thing from Take-Two that said last quarter, like, GTA Online new users were up like 50% or something?
Yeah, I suppose that's hype for GTA 6, right?
Yeah.
Like, there are people probably out there who were too young to have played GTA 5, and now they're old enough. GTA is a fucking phenomenon, man. There's no other way to put it.
Rave Damo says, Capital Digital Foundry Independence Day. If you haven't heard, Digital Foundry has amicably separated from IGN, is now independent. So here's my question.
Congrats to them.
Do you watch their content? And if you could have one of their hosts on Xbox 2, who would you want to invite on the show? Well, we already had someone from Digital Foundry on the show, Mr. Damos.
We had John Linneman.
We had John Linneman on.
Yeah, we had John Linneman. I don't watch Digital Foundry as much as I probably should, but huge congrats to them for going independent, first of all. They've got a Patreon, and you guys should check it out if you're into the high-tech stuff. But it's like one of them. Like, a lot of what they say completely goes over my head because I'm not that super techie, right? What I'd really like to see them do is like a crash course for people who want to get into all that stuff but aren't already into it, I suppose. Maybe they've already got that kind of content. I don't know. But I think that'd be a good show, like a Patreon exclusive guide to graphics, tech, and processors and all that kind of thing. I would definitely watch that. But yeah, maybe someday we get one of the other chaps on, or we have John on again. I think that'd be cool, especially when more stuff comes out about the next gen Xbox or the next gen PlayStation and stuff like that. It's definitely over the next couple of years, there's going to be a lot of discourse about tech and hardware and stuff. But yeah, it's awesome they've gone independent. It's awesome.
Yeah, he also says, my guess would be Oliver McKenzie so that Jez and Oliver could geek out over handhelds. Who would you invite? Cheers.
Yeah, maybe get him then. I really, really enjoyed talking handhelds with the Forks before because I learned a shitload from him. But yeah.
We got Lee Sanders says, so with the release soon of Helldivers, how much do you think this will factor into Sony's new tactics in releasing their games on Xbox? Appreciate the cat is out of the bag and their change of direction is happening, but will this change the speed of the multi-platform release plans?
We did talk about that earlier a little bit, but just to reiterate, I just really don't think that PlayStation going day and day, even day and day on Xbox would hurt them at all. But I really think like when it comes to growing your margins, when it comes to appeasing shareholders, all that kind of thing, you look wherever you can to get extra money, right? And I think putting old games like God of War 1 or The Last of Us or the first Spider-Man or whatever, even stuff like, I don't know, Ratchet and Clank, putting that stuff on Xbox is free money. It's free money. They would sell. They would market themselves, and Xbox fans will buy them, But I think there's another aspect of this, which I didn't mention in the early discussion. Maybe Sony just wants to cut out the middleman. Maybe Sony's like, you know what? Why should we give Steam 30% on Xbox when Microsoft's going to give us 88%? Because you have to remember, Microsoft's cut on a PC game is much more generous than Steam if you sell it on the Microsoft Store. And presumably, that cut will remain present for the next Xbox. So wouldn't it behoove Sony to put their games directly on Xbox rather than give Steam the extra money? Or maybe Sony makes their own PC store. It gives Microsoft and Steam 0%. I mean, that'd be the smartest play, but it's not exactly cheap to run your own store anyway. I mean, you have to pay for cloud servers and they'd have to pay Amazon. So maybe the margins just work out best for PlayStation to go direct to Microsoft and rather than give Steam the money, Or not just the money, but the power. Because you're not just giving Steam money, you're giving them more power over the gaming ecosystem, So I just think that we'll just see more of that stuff come to Xbox day and day in the future. And eventually we'll just end up in a universe where IP is the most important thing. Like, is the Sony anime for whatever else pushing sales more than the Xbox's Gears of War anime, I think that's where some of this shit goes, bro. But we'll see.
Let's see. We have Panda Man who says, hey guys, congrats Jez on the weight loss. As someone who has struggled with weight, I love food. Any tips you would share with the group? Or go to snack?
So, weight loss is really hard. It's not like I posted the other day on Twitter, for those who don't know, that I'd lost 60 pounds and I posted a new selfie because, my selfies from being 400 pounds are not so hot, figuratively and literally. But yeah, it's not the first time I've lost 60 pounds. In fact, I've lost this much weight maybe 4 or 5 times at this point and then put it all back on. So the way I lose weight is I calorie count into a spreadsheet. I've got a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet which just calorie counts out, and I calorie count I try to aim for about 1,200 a day. Sometimes I go a little bit over, sometimes I go a little bit under, but 1,200 a day on a weekly rolling average is how I lose weight. And then take vitamins. Sorry, Brits. I said it the American way for some reason. Take vitamins and also do a bit of exercise. So if you take the bus to town or something and you can walk instead, burn a little bit here and there. I'm not going hard on exercising. I do it all through dieting. But yeah, it's pure math at the end of the day. If you eat fewer calories than you need, then you'll lose weight, And obviously you need more calories to maintain a higher weight, right? So losing weight at 1,200 calories a day is really easy. But the problem is in like maintaining that, because as soon as you stop doing that lifestyle, you'll gain it all back, you know? So that's the bit that I'm not really good at advising on, is how to maintain that, because I've never been able to maintain it. When I was in my 20s, I lost 200 pounds in a year doing that. 1,200 calories a day, really strict, even on Christmas Day, 1,200 calories a day. I lost 200 pounds doing that. Gained it all back over the next 5 years after that. So it's tough, man. I don't think there's a silver bullet, you know. But there's stuff now like a Zempic and whatever, which a lot of people are using.
Yeah.
I'm not using a Zempic, but maybe that's the solution to maintaining it. I don't know.
We got Chris M, who says, "Hi guys. As the TV movie streaming industry is becoming more fractured with moves like Hulu being shut down and rolled into Disney Plus, and what ESPN is doing with the NFL media, buying all NFL media properties for 10% of ESPN, almost requiring multiple subscription services for sports like the NFL, the gaming industry almost seems to be going in the opposite direction with what seems like the slow death of exclusivity and more joint ventures like the Xbox ROG Ally. What do you think the two industries seem to be shifting? Why do you think the two industries seem to be shifting in opposite directions? Could it be the nature of the companies running games like Sony and Microsoft demanding better profit margins, the cost of game development at this point, or even the presence of a true disruptor like Steam, who seems to be a real driving factor in the way the gaming industry is moving? For instance, I saw the news about the new Sony handheld system being super powerful. My first thought was, if it doesn't have Steam, I don't understand the point of it. I'm curious your thoughts on these wildly changing landscapes. Hope you both have a fantastic weekend."
That's a really good question, especially with regards to streaming services becoming like separate lanes and stuff. Like only recently, like my ISP was like, "Oh yeah, we're going to put your bill up by this much amount," and it was like the explanation was because the sports packages are becoming more expensive. You know, my stepdad watches football, which makes our broadband TV package way more expensive than it would be if we were just, you know, watching a regular terrestrial Freeview, right? I suppose it's not directly comparable to gaming necessarily, because games are like a packaged product in essence, which you buy per game, right? It's not like back in the day when you bought like pay-per-view events. I mean, pay-per-view still exists, but nowhere near as prevalent as it used to be. Like, or at least in the UK, at least. I mean, back in the day, it was like WWE pay-per-view, you know, and you had to go to the cable channel and then, I don't know, pay like $10 or whatever it was back then to watch a WWE pay-per-view. And that was just all streaming on Netflix, right? So I don't think they're directly comparable, because obviously the sports events are licensed out by whoever owns the licenses. I suppose it's like FIFA in the UK, or UEFA, or whoever else for European stuff, and they will license out those sports events to the channels that offer them the best deal per sport, I suppose. Whereas like with games, it's like the idea is you want to sell as many products as everywhere as you can, and because they are digital, there's no limitation on distribution. So if you're thinking about something like a toy, for example, like or a food product, or like a snack or a beer even, sometimes like a retailer like Walmart, for example, they will look at that and be like, is this worth the shelf space in our business? It's not like that with a digital product, because there's no shelf space to think of. You know, the shelf space is essentially infinite in essence, right? So that isn't a factor. But with Walmart, they might be like, well, we'll stock your beer, but only if you give us exclusivity. And that's the thing that happens, like with beer and snacks and stuff like that. They'll let you use their shelf space as long as you give them exclusivity, because otherwise for them it's like, you know, they're doing their marketing and they'll be like, it's only available at Walmart, and then maybe get them in the door through that product, and then they don't just buy beer, but they also buy snacks, blah 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 blah. So I don't think it's directly comparable necessarily, because of the way digital distribution is. But I think But I do think that the WWE, just using the wrestling as an example, they have sort of figured out that, and again, this isn't directly comparable because wrestling is more like entertainment, it's less like sport. Back in the day when wrestling did kind of present like a sport, when it had their pay-per-view events like a boxing match and stuff like that, they kind of had a more sport mentality about it. They'd be like, we'll license the WWE out as a sport to a sports channel. But now they've gone over to Netflix because they realized that, for WWE, it's less about the sport aspect of it and more about like how much social media drama can they create, how much access can they create. So the WWE is creating access to find eyeballs. They've even got like a documentary now which gives you all behind the scenes look about how the WWE works and all that kind of stuff. That would have been unheard of in the 90s when they were trying to present like a sport. And I don't think sport doesn't yet have that issue where they're competing with other forms of entertainment. I don't know exactly how sport is doing as an industry, but like in the case of like WWE and Xbox and gaming, they are competing with TikTok for eyeballs. I don't necessarily think that football is competing with TikTok for eyeballs because football fans are football fans, right? So I think it's a little bit different, but it is a good case study for the way that companies that are sort of, it gives you a hint about which companies consider the zeitgeist important, right? And I don't think football has an issue with the zeitgeist being important, but I do think games and stuff like the WWE, I do think they have an issue with the zeitgeist being important, and cutting through that zeitgeist is why they're making things more accessible rather than less accessible. I think only Nintendo really has the ability to just cut through the zeitgeist as by virtue of the fact they're Nintendo,
Yeah.
because they've built up those decades worth of nostalgia, which, either Xbox and PlayStation never had or they squandered. Xbox squandered Halo. PlayStation's got God of War to some degree, but God of War was always an adult kind of game anyway, so your audience is kind of limited there. But yeah, I mean, football doesn't have to compete with that shit, right?
No.
I don't know.
No, I mean, plus like a lot of games going, is about like the whole business model is to get as many people playing as possible, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it needs to be everywhere.
It's like Spotify too. Like Spotify exists in that world where it's like we need the zeitgeist. We need people talking about our product. Because even though artists make next to nothing on Spotify, it's like if nobody's talking about your band or sharing your band, you ain't gonna sell tickets for your concerts, which is the real money, right? Tickets and merchandise, and to a lesser extent vinyl and CDs. That's the real money, especially the ticket sales. So
Yeah.
like they kind of like, access is the thing that leads to the halo effect. And I suppose with PlayStation, they're thinking about it in terms of like, okay, well, we'll make access to the games easier by putting them on PC and to a lesser extent Xbox. But then we need to do more to monetize that experience, i.e., Horizon TV show, Last of Us TV show, Microsoft with the Fallout TV show, all that kind of stuff, you know. So, but sports don't really have that issue. But maybe one day sports does have that issue. Maybe there is a point where sports doesn't become cool anymore, and people are just like, you know what, I'm gonna just browse TikTok instead of watch the World Cup. I don't know.
Well, I think
It's
some of it.
interesting to talk about.
I just remember back in the day when streaming first came out. It was like, oh, we're gonna cut cord on cable because everything's gonna be streaming, and then all the corporations were like, we're not gonna let Netflix win this, and we're gonna do our own stuff. So then every one of these corporations made one of their own streaming stuff, and everything became more expensive than it would have even been on cable. But like because everything was basically been on demand, the stuff that has been most wanted by advertisers and networks is stuff that's watched live, like the NFL and the NBA and WWE. And so they're going to monetize that as much as they can. Whereas like the gaming industry is like, the whole thing is we want as many people to play it as we possibly can. But for some of these conglomerates like ESPN to really continue to exist and stuff, it's like they need big things that draw eyeballs, and those things are, the NFL or WWE, where WWE has a really big fan base, and so like they sign. So you look at it like WWE signs with Netflix for Raw, and they have SmackDown on cable, they have NXT on CW network, and then they have their PLEs, and ESPN's this huge brand centered around sports. And I think WWE even said they took less money to go with ESPN. They could have gotten more money from somebody else, but they wanted to be associated with the brand thing. It's just like nothing's bigger than the NFL. So it's like that's how ESPN is going to make its money and get people to try to buy into that whole like ESPN direct-to-consumer platform. Because it's all live, and advertisers love all the live stuff because they know people are watching. Yeah, but it is definitely interesting to see how things used to be versus how things are going to end up.
I mean, like WWE is just not on sports channels at all in the UK now. All of it, it's all on Netflix, which is amazing. Which is why you should use Surfshark VPN if you're in America to get it on UK Netflix. But
Glenn says, I wonder if you would be interested to discuss the concept of immersion. How do you guys feel about immersion? Is it an important aspect of video games for you, or do you think it's overrated or less important than other factors? Two hosts of another podcast I enjoy, Games Studies Study Buddies, both say they dislike immersion, which I find weird. Maybe it's worth noting that there are multiple kinds of immersion. Narrative immersion, like God of War, challenge-based immersion, like chess or Souls-likes, and sensory immersion, like VR simulations. My impression is that Rand tends to gravitate towards immersive narrative games, whereas for Jez, it's challenge-based. I could be wrong about that. Cheers. Interesting question about immersion.
It is interesting, and I also think it's interesting that you have a perception that I don't like immersion. I actually think immersion is my North Star. Immersion is like the thing I look for the most when I decide what I'm going to play. Especially when it comes to like RPGs and role playing and stuff like that. I love being able to make decisions in games. I do like a challenge, and even though I'm terrible at games, I do gravitate towards challenges a lot more as I get older. I think part of that is because I'm worried that I'm getting slower as I get older. So it's like I want to challenge myself to prove that I can still do it. Like Wu Chang's like, God damn, that game is so hard. But it's like it feels good when you do it, and you overcome that kind of stuff. But at the same time, Wu Chang's like really immersive. It's like amazing music, amazing artwork, interesting story. The game's derivative, sure. It doesn't do anything particularly unique. It is basically Chinese Dark Souls. But yeah, I love that shit. For me personally, like I think immersion is it's not always necessary to enjoy a game. Like I will enjoy games that are very mechanical on a mechanical basis, like even things like Candy Crush, or Fallout Shelter and stuff like that. I wouldn't say Fallout Shelter is particularly immersive, for example, but I really enjoy it. I really enjoy City Builders again. Not very. I mean, City Builders can be quite immersive, like with the story and the environment and like just browsing your city and stuff. Like actually can be quite immersive, but I will play like puzzle games and stuff like that if they're fun, or very arcadey games. I don't think side scrollers like Streets of Rage or whatever, I wouldn't call them immersive per se, but I do like to be immersed. But I do find that odd too. That guy was like, "Oh, we don't like immersion in games." I'm like, "What? I mean, isn't that the point of games to be immersive? To help you escape?" I don't know, man.
Well, I guess it depends for each individual person about how they play their games. Like, if you play your games and you're always in a Discord or you're always in a party chat and you're talking to people while you play the latest game, then immersion doesn't mean anything to you, right? Immersion, like, if I don't get as much out of a game if I'm playing something and I'm also in a party with other people because I tend to focus on the conversation rather than the game itself. So, you know, when I play Mafia, I'm gonna play Mafia by myself. When I played Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, I played it by myself. You know, that's just kind of how I enjoy my gaming experience. If it's like something, it doesn't even need to be something that really requires that much attention. I just like to have the headphones on, maxed out, lights out, and just be there in the game, experiencing it. No subtitles. Just kind of just take everything in. That's just me. I mean, the same thing with books. Like, I read books and I'm making sure I'm not being bothered by anything, because I want that thing where it's like you read enough and then you get into it and it's like, boom, you're immersed in the story. You can visualize everything. And it's great. But I mean, that's not every case. Like, Ready or Not, that's a co-op game to me. I'm playing that with my friends, you know, or like Battlefield 6 or whatever. But if I were to play Battlefield 6 campaign, I'd play it by myself. I don't know. I guess this is how I've been doing it for forever. So it feels like that's the right way to do it. But I also know plenty of people that if they're online playing something, they're playing it with people. And not even that's got to be a co-op game. So, and it's not even, like it says, it's not even narrative games. Sure, like narrative games, like, yeah, you have dialogue that you want to pay attention to. But also, like, there's no story in Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. But I still wanted to play that game by myself. Maybe I'm just introverted and I'm a loner in that regard. But if it's not like a co-op experience, I go for the, you know, I go for that lone, immersive quality of stuff. So, John says, "Hey guys, what do you think about these Xbox Magnus rumors from Moore's Law is Dead? It is potentially more powerful than the next PS6, but sounds like it's going to be more expensive. Isn't this a mistake, rather than trying to compete with Sony on price? Given that developers seem to develop for PlayStation first, I'm worried that any future Xbox won't take advantage of any extra horsepower. The other thing as well is, given that Moore's Law is Dead, clear preference to PlayStation, do we think this rumor is correct or bad faith? If his leak is a load of old cobbers, it panics Xbox fans that they might be priced out of next gen. When next gen comes out and the Xbox isn't as powerful as he claims, they could get disappointed and feel betrayed. Jez, what if anything have you heard about you can share? And Rand and Jez, what do you think about this potential shift in strategy?"
Well, I do think that very aggressively, Microsoft knows how much people want to pay for a console, you know. I think at the end of the day, Microsoft doesn't want to price people out of the market. That's very much what the Xbox Series S was about to begin with. And they know that Xbox Series S players are going to want somewhere to go as well, right? So I think that's partially why they're doing the OEM stuff, because maybe OEMs make the next Xbox Series S. I don't know. But I will say that, like, you know, even today as I've been doing the podcast, I've been trying to lock down more details about this stuff. And it does sound like it is going to be a very powerful boy. So that kind of goes on to, you know, price suggestions, right? If it's going to be a very powerful device, chances are it's going to be quite expensive. And in that universe, do you not price out Xbox Series S players, you know, if nothing else, right? I do think that the next Xbox will be affordable. I don't think it's going to be like $2,000 or something ridiculous. I don't even think it's going to be $1,000. And you're probably looking at, if I had to guess right now, maybe $799 at most. But I even think that might be too high. So maybe realistically it's like $699. But maybe there's multiple SKUs as well. I can see like them doing different price points for hard drive space, for example. And then also OEM devices, which might be cheaper too. Maybe OEMs like use other levers to make it more affordable. I don't know. But it's really hard to say without more information. There's a lot more I need to know and a lot more we need to learn about exactly what this is going to look like, especially when it comes to price and all that kind of stuff. Because I remember people saying like the ROG Ally was going to be $1,000, and it isn't, even the high end model.
True. I mean, I don't know. I mean, rumors are rumors, right? I always take these sort of things with a grain of salt because you never know if it's going to end up being true. I mean, there's no price point. Him saying it's going to be expensive doesn't mean anything because you don't know what Microsoft's going to price it, so you don't know. I don't see how anybody could be like, well, he said this and it was going to be this price point, and then that would be Microsoft. So, like, I don't really think that's an issue. I mean, I get the idea of like, well, I do get the point here of like, given that developers seem to develop for PlayStation first, I'm worried that any future Xbox won't take advantage of any extra horsepower. I mean, we've seen how kind of that happened with the Series X and PS5, where it didn't really seem like they took advantage of a lot of the features that Xbox Series X had over the PS5. So you're probably maybe right to be concerned with that. Like, does it make it? Is that a wise move to make a device that's much powerful if you aren't going to take advantage of it at the cost, the whatever price you're going to sell it at? There's just too many questions that we have. Like, we don't even know like how much of this is going to be like, I don't know. See, I'm not a tech guy, so I'm not really sure about like all that sort of stuff. But we did see how this generation.
I comment from the mentality of, I'm not a tech guy either, and I comment it from the mentality of like, what's Microsoft thinking from a business perspective? Because that's really like Microsoft's thinking is how I.
Well, they might be thinking they might think we need to build a powerful machine because this might be our last one we make. It needs to last a while, right? Or maybe they're like, well, it needs to be powerful because if we're going to sell a device, it needs to be worth the money, and we're okay with selling this device to 20 million people. So, like, here's what we're going for.
But there's still that whole like the business model of console hasn't changed, and I know that Microsoft and Sony are more margin sensitive than they have been in the past, and it's like, okay, well, we can't be selling a box that makes a loss on every device like we did in the past. But at the same time, it's still like the margins have to be thin because the whole business more than ever is software sales. And if you make a device nobody can buy, then you can't sell any software. And a lot of those Xbox fans, at the end of the day, they want a new Xbox that is within their price range. They don't want a $1,000 PC. They still want I don't know, around $600 at most console at the end of the day. That's the audience. So for me, it's like, I think they still want to cater to that audience as much as humanly possible, while also exploring this possibility of making a device that even PC gamers might consider as a Steam companion for their TV sets, so they can game away from the desk. But even then, it's like, they've got a 5090 or whatever. Why do they want this? Well, maybe it's because they've got a 5060 or whatever, and maybe this is more powerful while being more affordable, and it can still run all your Steam stuff. And if it is targeting Steam gamers, then maybe you do want the margins because that's the only way you're going to make any money, It's interesting. It's an interesting conflict of ideologies, I suppose, because there's a interesting conflict of business models, I suppose, because it's like, there's making money on the hardware and selling the software, or you can have the Apple approach, which is sell everything at a premium and everyone buys it anyway for some reason. But not everyone can be an Apple. Or there's like the other approach, which is like make it cheap and try and maximize the software sales. But Microsoft makes most of its software sales on other platforms now, so does that matter anymore to them? I don't know. It's really hard to say. Could go in any one of those three directions, I think.
We got Trickstar for Trey who says, so with all these games being canceled and taking so long to come out, is it more of a lack of a solid direction, vision, bad planning, or bad management with lots of wasted time? Just curious, wasted funds and time seem to be a common thing recently with these canceled games. I mean, it's something for sure. You got to look at leadership. You got to look at, was there a bad plan from the start? Did you have to change up your did you change your creative direction at some point? You look at how long Everwild's been going on, you look at how long Perfect Dark has been going on, you look at how long Contraband's been going on, and you wonder, like, what's the common thread in all those? They just not have a good vision from the beginning, and it just kind of, the game never came together. I don't know. Like, I've never made a game, so I couldn't tell you what would come out of it. But it definitely
Never
makes.
made a game?
No, you never have, and I don't think anybody in chat has ever really had. So
that's not true. I've made a game.
True. That is true. You did make a game, but
The Randolph Thor game.
It's obviously something. I mean, video games are notoriously hard to make. And these are some great studios. It's not, Avalanche has made some great games in the past. The Just Cause games, The Rage 2,
Rage 2,
Crystal Dynamics, Tomb Raider games, Marvel Avengers. I mean, they've made game like Rare. So it's like these aren't first time studios. And I guess maybe where you could point to with the initiative being like first time studio, even though it was filled with people who had really impressive resumes from a lot of different places. But okay, so now we're moving to CodeDev and we're doing Perfect Dark with Crystal Dynamics, who knows what they're doing, is shown in the past. Like, it's not like any of these studios are just startups. And it was like, oh, we just picked the wrong leaders or whatever. Our business plan wasn't good. It's just like, well, what happened with these games?
I think one of the issues is that when these games were greenlit, the industry was just different. Microsoft's strategy was different and all that kind of stuff. But I think even in that world where things were different, it's kind of like, how does this kind of happen? I think maybe in another universe, Microsoft's willing to keep funding some of this stuff. But I think maybe the mistake was just relying so much on second party. Because, I mean, all the money they put into Contraband is pretty much just evaporated into the ether now. It's just gone. This money's never going anywhere. Unless by some miracle, Contraband finds a new if Contraband finds a new publisher, then maybe that money's saved. But I just don't see it happening personally. But maybe Crafton comes in at the last minute, Rand.
Yeah, maybe.
You think, Rand? Crafton?
No, I doubt it.
Saving the day again?
I doubt it. Silas says, evening, gents. I've been thinking about the upcoming ROG Ally X and how it's not designed to be a mass market device. How it's a premium product with all the latest handheld tech designed for the enthusiasts with disposable income like Colt and Gaz. With that in mind, I don't understand the logic behind not going with the premium OLED screen. Yes, you would be looking at a possibly $50 to $100 additional cost, but for the target audience that's willing to pay $900 or so, I would doubt there would be many, if any, that wouldn't get the device with an OLED panel because of the relative added cost. I don't foresee big spenders holding the line. Thoughts? Well, it's funny you say Colt because Colt does not want the device. He's not willing to spend any amount of money on it. So
does he not?
No, he doesn't. He has a ROG Ally.
Oh, okay.
So I've talked to him about it. I'm like, you getting the thing? He's like, hell no.
I bet he gets it.
He won't spend his own money on it.
The current rumor is that it's not even going to be much more powerful than the ROG Ally X. So if you've got a ROG Ally X already, you probably don't even need to buy this unless you want, like, I don't know, an extra hour of battery life or even that. But
how much would an OLED screen increase price? And or could they be looking at like, oh, we're actually, here's the Xbox Ally X2 with an OLED screen, and they can charge more, like how Nintendo's going to do with the Switch 2 eventually, right?
Well, I think they actually commented on this. I think they actually did comment on this, and I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember, but they have answered this question in an interview, like, why didn't you go with an OLED panel? I don't know, I can't remember exactly off the top of my head what they said, but I think it was something, and this could just be an excuse or bullshit. I think they said they couldn't find an OLED panel that was variable refresh rates at 120 frames per second while also being 7 inches. I think that was the excuse they gave. Now, I don't know if an OLED panel like that exists. I suppose like the Samsung screens are like that, but again, they're not 16 by 9 7-inch, are they? They're sort of this weird 21 by 10 aspect ratio or something like that. I don't know. So I honestly don't know why they did it, but from what I think, it's also confirmed that the panel is exactly the same as the panel from the ROG Ally. It's exactly the same panel. So it could just be like they had the stock. You know, it could just be like we've got the stock because we overstocked on screens for the ROG Ally, and they went with that. It's like Lenovo. Like Lenovo, the Lenovo Legion Go uses panels that they had lying around from their Android tablets. Because I don't think they make Android tablets anymore. But that's why the Lenovo Legion Go out of the box is a portrait screen, which is ridiculous. You know, so like when you set that device up, you're setting it up in portrait mode, which is dumb as hell, man. But those are the panels they had lying around, and I suppose it's all about like the margins and what stock they've got, because they're hardware companies at the end of the day. These aren't prestige devices for them. They're just sort of making them because they want to make some money, you know. I suppose it'd be different if it was Microsoft making it, which again is why I think a lot of people would prefer Microsoft to make one, because they probably would have made it a prestige device, you know, at least the flagship version.
Right.
Yeah.
We have Johnny6 who says, "Hey Rand Jez, which external data solution Xbox will go with for next gen? Stick with external expansion cards or switch to M2 NVMe SSD? Maybe they can use both so we can reuse the expansion cards. Those expansion cards won't get much cheaper." Yeah, I've been thinking about that, Jez. Do you think they go with the expansion card just because they already are using it, or do they go with if it's more? I don't know. I honestly don't know because if you say we're not doing the expansion cards and we're going with the M.2 NVMe, you might see some people being mad, like, oh, so like my expansion card for the Series X doesn't work anymore. You know, like I spent $200 on this thing and I can't use it, which normally isn't a problem. But Microsoft was the first one to be like, hey, your accessories work forward and back, right, with your controllers, because every other gen has been like, hey, your controllers don't work moving forward. You need to get new stuff. All your accessories don't work. But they made it a thing being like, no, your stuff works, right? And
just worked.
Those things are expensive. So are they going to use it for next gen? Or will they just be like, you know what? We'll just let the users do it themselves. What do you think? If you had to, because I don't really see them doing. I don't see them doing both. I don't see them like there's an expansion slot if you want to use that, or the NVMe slot if you want to do that. Right? I think it's just one or the other.
Yeah, it's problematic, right? Because CF Express is not owned by Microsoft. They have to license the technology from the CF Express consortium or whatever they're called. The CF Express was not really designed for consoles. It was designed for high-end movie cameras, I think, originally, something like that. But the point of it is, it's like it's super fast and it connects straight to the motherboard. And it also, like, you know, you don't need to mess with formatting it or anything. It just works out the box, and that's why they went with it. They went for the whole idea of like, this is sake of ease, plug and play, you know, console, plug and play, right? So, but there's also the flip side of that, which is like, well, CF Express cards are really expensive, essentially proprietary, and you can get a really good deal on a compatible NVMe on the PS5 for much cheaper. But that isn't like without its downsides too. And I suppose like Microsoft would have data on how many people actually have those cards, right? So maybe there's enough people with the cards. Do you have one, Rand? Do you have
Yes,
Safe Express
I
card?
have one.
Yeah. Maybe there's enough people with the cards where Microsoft's like, we need to retain this because everyone's got them. And I don't think storage speeds have gotten so much faster between now and 2027 that it makes a huge amount of difference to the way a game is designed. Maybe like the loading speeds and textures loading in and things like that. But I don't know. It could go either way. There's pros and cons to both, right? But
Yeah.
if you're asking me to guess, I'm guessing they ditch them.
That would be my guess too. Is that they ditch them and let you
that's my
install
guess.
your own. So, we got Agent of Chaos who says, "Hey, Rand Jez, with no updates on Contraband since its initial announcement trailer all those years ago, why must the fault lie with Microsoft as the publisher instead of Avalanche as the studio? I only ask because as much as corporations really suck, studios can still make mistakes, but generally all canceled games get described as something amazing that is lost forever." That is true.
Nah, I tend to agree with that. I don't think all the blame can be laid at Microsoft's feet for when things like this go wrong. I think second party is hard. Clearly it's hard. And, it's not like Microsoft's breathing down their neck. They kind of like give them goals and milestones to hit. And like that studio either hits the milestone or they don't. And we know that, Microsoft's kind of been taken for a ride by second parties before, where it's like, they've taken the upfront cash to make the game, and then they've gone and made another game, or they've worked on another game and published another game for another company, and that kind of thing, while missing the milestones on the game that Microsoft's paying them to make, So I don't necessarily think it's all Microsoft's fault, but without being a fly on the wall and having a CCTV camera there and a full post-mortem on what went wrong, it's really hard to say where the fault lies.
Well, yeah, but I think there's something
Maybe
to be
it should
said.
never have been greenlit in the first place.
I think there's something to be said of like everybody always assumes that the canceled game will be something amazing. I actually had a conversation with somebody recently about that. We were talking about like things Xbox did this generation, and they were like, "Oh, they should have canceled Redfall," and I was like, "Yeah, in hindsight, they probably should have." But could you imagine the outrage people would have had if one of the first things Microsoft did when acquiring Bethesda was to cancel an Arcane game, and that information came out at some point, being like, Microsoft canceled Arcane Austin's game. People would have built it up in their head that this game was some legendary game and just so amazing because they never got to see it. So everybody always assumes like canceled games were all just amazing. And I said to the person, I was like, bro, like, you would have been the first one to say, fuck you, Microsoft, for doing that to Arcane. How could you? They never miss. You know what I mean? Like, we all would have been like that. Could you imagine being like, they canceled an arcade game? You'd be like, what the hell? How could they? But then nobody thinks like that anymore because we got to play Redfall. We know how it turned out.
Hindsight's 2020. It always is.
But when you hear about canceled games, you think, oh man, like, you don't really think, well, the game must have really sucked. It's just like, it's
all Microsoft's fault.
It's Sony's fault. Like Sony's fault for canceling those other games. It might be Sony's fault for putting Blue Point on a live service game, what have you. All those games that they canceled, but people are like, screw you, Sony. But then it's like, well, maybe those games weren't good. Maybe like Microsoft was like, hey, Everwild still hasn't come together and it's still not good, and let's cancel it. Or Perfect Dark's still not coming together and it's not good. I don't know. Like, we're not there. Maybe it was good, but they just needed more time and they weren't willing to give them more time. But yeah, people always want to blame the corporation because, well, they're faceless and they're just super greedy. So everyone's just like, well, they're the ones in the wrong. Nobody wants to really blame the individual or the group because they're composed of just regular people like you and me, and trying to just make something together. So you'd rather blame the huge billion-dollar, trillion-dollar corporation than just, the answer just being, actually, the game sucked because you guys just weren't good enough, right? Or what you made just wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
We got Governor Grimm, who says, I just don't understand with the way Sony and Microsoft has raised prices and profit is above all. Why would we anticipate Microsoft is going to subsidize hardware going forward if they can no longer guarantee some level of lock-in? I mean, I don't really think there's going to be any subsidies. I think they're going to price the hardware with enough profit to make it where it's going to be expensive. I don't know. I think that at least for Microsoft, I don't expect the $500 consoles moving forward. You're probably looking at a start of 700, 800, depending on whatever they want. I don't know. Plus, like with the way, 2 years from now, the way the economy could be, plus the political climate and tariffs and all that stuff, like they're not going to eat that. So, no. I know, Jez, I know you like to say might be some subsidy, but I don't really think there's going to be any.
Yeah, I mean that's the optimistic take, some subsidy.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I won't know without. It's the kind of thing that I'd ask at Gamescom or an interview. So maybe we'll find out in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. We have Pat Rock, who says, do you think Sean Layden's Kratos meme is a little foreshadowing of maybe what he's heard behind the scenes? Maybe that 2D God of War is going day and date with PC. I'm sure PlayStation has analytics of sky-scrollers on the platform, and maybe it doesn't make sense to release it just on PlayStation. I don't think it has anything to do with 2D God of War being day and date on PC. And I doubt it even is him hearing anything behind the scenes, because he may not know a lot of the people there because they have new people. I think it's just him seeing the quote of what they said and just reacting to it. I think it's just the simplest explanation is the right one in this case.
Yeah, I don't think it's foreshadowing.
Yeah,
but maybe it's incidental foreshadowing.
I don't think it's any insider knowledge or anything to do with 2D God of War. It's just he saw the quote and was just that's the reaction.
Yeah.
Good O'Conlon says, hello, Rand and Jez. I hear the Xbox Air podcast isn't running the same week Jez is at Gamescom because John and Jesse will also be there. Nick will be spare. Just a thought. So you're saying that Nick should be on Xbox 2 that week? Interesting. Well, we do need a replacement for you because you're going to be at Gamescom, so I might have to ask Nick, I guess, or somebody.
Yeah, special Nick. Get him in.
Get him in, indeed. Get him in, indeed.
I'll be rocking it out with me and Paris, painting the town, hanging out, going to all the industry parties,
Yeah, I know, right? I'm
getting
super
all
jealous.
our free yellow chairs.
The yellow chairs. Did you get one of those? Or it was just Paris, right?
I didn't get a yellow chair. I had to buy my own collector's edition, bro. It's just not fair, man. It's just not fair. I have to buy my own Diablo statue. Had to buy my own collector's edition. It's not fair, man. Some of us just, we just don't get the free stuff.
I know. Let's see what else we got here. Scarcely relevant member for 65 months says, then what is an Android phone? So many variations, still plays all the Android apps and games. I mean...
Yeah, but Google's margins on Android ain't that hot. All the money from Android comes from Google ads. But like the actual App Store, I don't think Google makes very much. And I think they make next to nothing from OEMs. It's all like the data. That's what they want. It's only Apple that really sort of has their cake and eat it when it comes to phones. You know what, Rand?
What?
I'd take over an Xbox handheld.
What would you what?
What I'd take over an Xbox handheld.
What would you take?
Xbox phone, baby. Time to make an Xbox phone.
Of course
That'd
you
be
would.
sick, bro. Xbox phone, that'd sell 20 billion units. You'd have aliens coming from outer space to buy that phone, dude.
Yeah, you wish for the return of Windows Phone, but it's never gonna happen.
It might happen.
Did I see something like where Elon said that ChatGPT AI is gonna be the thing that destroys Microsoft or something?
Oh, did it?
I thought I saw like a Windows Central article earlier today about it.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I missed that. If you did say it.
I don't know. But anyways, we've come to the end of our show. Hope you guys enjoyed the 4 hours of entertainment me and Jez have provided you today. If you did, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, follow Jez and myself on Twitter, I guess. Jez more, because he tweets every little thought he has in his brain all the time.
I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think. Not as much.
And, we appreciate everyone who's been hanging out with us or lurking or listening later. We'll be back on Tuesday with something, so be on the lookout for that. And then, of course, and then next week we will be obviously back with Xbox 2 on the 15th, the week before Jez goes to Gamescom, so we'll see what'll be happening then. But until then, hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. Enjoy Battlefield 6 if you're playing it. I'll be probably playing Mafia at some point. And, keep it gaming. And we'll see you soon. Later.
Take care, everybody.